Hey, welcome to the Wise Guys, the #1 BYU Sports Livestream show in the entire world. Dave McCann and Blaine Fowler, it's so good to have you with us. We got a loaded Tuesday show tonight. You wouldn't even think we're in January with so much stuff that we have going on.
I mean, we've got three phenomenal guests on with us tonight, so it's going to be a great treat. I love that our first guest is in studio with us.
Yeah, and he's ready to go.
I love that he's still a Cougar, and I love that he's in studio with us. Ben Bywater is going to be here with us. Before we get into who we've got, though, make sure you follow us on YouTube. We'll put the link in the chat for all of this stuff, but hit the subscribe button. It's free. We're also live on Facebook, Twitch, and your clearinghouse for everything that we do is ysguys.com. So go to ysguys.com and make sure you subscribe there, because if you do that, you're going to get our weekly email. It's going to have highlights from the show, all of our past interviews, including folks like Steve Young and Danny Ainge, Wally Joyner, Marie Osmond, Jim Rufford. I'm just throwing some off the top of my head right now. But great list of guests. And
there's a great interview there with Kyle Van Noy, who's a game away from the Super Bowl that you want to go to check out. His story, I think we have an hour and 50 minutes with Kyle Van Noy at ysguys.com. Check that one out. By the way, Robert's first one in the house out of Ridgecrest, California. Welcome to the Wise Guys. And Glenn from the Philippines is in. Let's see, Jess from Saratoga Springs, Utah. Let us know where you're viewing, listening, and participating with us, and send us your questions. We've got an awesome show. BYU linebacker Ben Bywater will be with us, get the latest on his health as BYU prepares for its second season in the Big 12. We're also going to ask him for his take on Fred Warner and Kyle Van Noy playing at such an elite level, and what that means for a linebacker who also wants to join the league after next season and start making a living
and
playing
there's
football.
Such a great legacy at that position at BYU, and not just what they've done in college, but with those guys playing at the level they're playing at. And you throw in Sione Takitaki, who had another good season with the Browns. It's a position where BYU's consistently generating NFL, not just NFL players, but guys that are difference makers. Like Fred Warner's the best linebacker in the league. He's the best defender in the league, period. First team All-Pro, unanimous. Every ballot, unanimous first team All-Pro.
And I think they're going to reunite in the Super Bowl. I think the Ravens and the 49ers are going to get through this last week.
Kyle, when he was on the show, it was so fun because he said, you remember this, Dave, where he said, yeah, I'm a veteran, so here's what I'm doing. I'm trying not to go to camp because you just get tired going to camp. So my agent has some leads. We're going to go to a good team, but it's going to be after camp when the season started, and they're going to need somebody.
And we're saying, Kyle, you're broadcasting your strategy to everybody.
Like you're telling everybody. He's like, it's okay. I'm established, and I'm not going to wear my body out, and I'm going to come in, and I'm going to contribute. And then he also said this, which wasn't bragging because it was just fact. Every defense I've ever been a part of when I've joined it, it's got better statistically, not just because of my play, because I understand defenses and I can help other guys get better in that defense. So no matter where I go, they're going to be better defensively than they were when I got there.
Yeah.
And he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Former BYU basketball star Jeff Chapman is going to join us from New York. He'll size up life in the Big 12 and talk about Ali Khalifa's passing ability as a big man. From one big man to the other, that's going to be a great conversation. And then Mark Durant will be with us to preview tomorrow night's showdown against fourth-ranked Houston at the Marriott Center in one of the biggest games that Provo's ever hosted. I mean, there aren't that many. That's one of them.
You can think of Gonzaga games and Gonzaga and the WCC, coming in with their national rankings. But in this league, this is the third-ranked team in a row for this basketball team. But having a team that's a projected 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, that's this high in the net, that's this ranked this high, is a big deal. So I hope that the Marriott Center is to the rafters with fans and just a nutso environment.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
That makes, you know what? In this league, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, but anyone can beat anyone at home, and anyone can lose to anyone on the road. We just gave you a few of the accolades of this Houston team and how good they are. They're 0-2 in the league and conference on the road.
It's going to be something. We'll be on the pregame show on BYU TV at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. The game's at 7 on ESPN+. Plus more of those details coming up. Let's jump into our headlines. The Athletic reporting the Big 12 is going to announce their fall football schedule on Tuesday, January 30th. That's next week. They told us the middle of the month, but really what they meant was the end of it. And that's when we'll find out the dates.
Right. We know who they're playing, right?
Yeah.
We just don't know the order. We know their preseason is Southern Illinois. They're going to be at SMU, at Wyoming. And we know that, the teams they have in the Big 12, and whether they're home or away, we know that Houston and Kansas are at home. We know that Baylor, Arizona State are away. Arizona's at home. Oklahoma State's home. Think about the teams coming into to LaVell Edwards Stadium. You've got, in the league, Kansas, Arizona, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State all come into Provo. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, and we just want the dates.
Yeah.
And then we want to know when the Utah game is.
Like, on the road, at Baylor, at Arizona State. I think those are winnable games on the road. At Central Florida, and BYU's familiar with that. And then at Utah, and we're all just keeping our fingers crossed that Utah game is Thanksgiving weekend,
as it should be,
which would be really fun.
Be the restoration of all things.
And the way the league starts and the way the fall sets up, there's a potential to have 2 byes in this fall schedule, where you have 2 byes, which would be really nice. I like 6 on the 6th week. You like the same thing because we want them to have the traditional weekend off. If you can't play a Friday game with Utah State,
take it off
on conference weekend. Take it off, and then I like them playing 4 games and taking another bye and finishing up with 3 games. I think it keeps people healthy. So let's see if it works out that nice. What you don't want is like a bye 2 games in and another bye 4 games in, and that's it.
So those dates are coming. Hang in there. Quarterback Gary Bohannon is going to join the Wise Guys on Monday, February 5th. Excited to visit with him about the new team. Well, the fall schedule will be out, and so we can talk about that as well. I'm excited to talk to Ben Bywater before the schedule comes out because he's going to get a second shot of the Utes no matter when they play.
Right on.
And the last shot he had against the Utes, they beat him.
Maybe that's why he came back.
That might be. It's our pleasure to welcome Ben Bywater to the Wise Guys. He's on the mend from shoulder surgery back in November, getting ready for his final season at BYU, one of the great personalities on the roster, and we've had a chance to call his games and get to know him for some time. Welcome to the Wise Guys. Pull that thing right under your chin, and we're good to go.
Right here.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
How are you feeling? Let's start with the number one question that fans might have if they could get 5 minutes with you. How's your shoulder?
It's good. It's good. We went under the knife in November, so took my sling off, and I've just been rehabbing, but it's been good.
Can you lift yet? Like heavy?
No, yeah. So like the timeline usually is, right, so you get the surgery, you're in a sling for about 4 to 6 weeks, and then for the next 6 weeks, you're just taking it light, right? You're
range of
doing
motion.
Yeah. Kind of isometrics. So you're trying to get some blood flow and recovery, but you're not like cranking the weights. So
yeah,
I've just been doing that.
Is that hard for you? Because like I know you well enough to know you love to be in the weight room, right? You love it. You get a lot of work done there. You're big, strong dude because of it. Does it just drive you nuts when you can't get in there and go after it the way you want to?
And you know, your boy's got body dysmorphia for sure. So, you know, I look in the mirror, I'm like, you know, it's not looking the same as it used to. But yeah, it's tough because like you can go do some like squats, some single legs, some like one arm stuff. But like your nervous system is, I just feel like for me, right, like no matter how much I do, right, until you're back in the full swing, sprinting, squatting, cleaning, like you're just a little step behind. So
at what point in the Kansas game did you get hurt?
It was like end of third quarter.
Just on a routine hit or what?
Weird. Yeah. So like the funny thing is the week prior, we were playing Arkansas. I kind of slipped off a tackle and my shoulder like jolted and I heard it, like it kind of slipped out of place. And so, you know, I've done this unfortunately a few times. And so when it happened, I was like, okay, that's not right. So I got a little brace, you know, through the week. I was trying to keep it hush just because I didn't want on my, injury record. So, and then all of a sudden, bang, it just popped, like hit the guy and
you knew right away?
Exploded. It just felt like a 50 cal right to my shoulder, which
really?
Like, I've heard this other one too. And it just was different. It's just, and so I was, obviously your first initial thought is, hey, I'm going to go thug it out, play the rest of the year. But, we just, after a lot of hard conversations, it was just, I really couldn't even move the arm.
So do you have bionic shoulders now? Because both have been repaired?
You've had both done, right?
I've had both done. My surgeon's like, hey, I think it's genetic. Like, you got really limber. You know, after I came out of surgery, he's like,
say thanks.
So they were loose
Dad.
to begin with. So here's the question. They say, but don't worry, I tightened it all. Everything's tightened up, and you should be good to go now.
Should be good to go. So.
Yeah, and that's good. Now, so what impact did this injury have? Because let's go back and remind everybody, you led this team in tackles, every year for the previous 2 years. I have no question in my mind you lead the team in tackles last year again.
Appreciate that.
First of all, because you're just a tackling machine. Second of all, this new defense lends itself to the position you play, just funneling people to you.
Yeah.
Like I would have been surprised you didn't have 110, 115, 120 tackles this last year, right? Yeah. Which would have launched you into the NFL. So this injury, how did that affect the whole decision process to come back and to do all of that?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, like, I felt like I was teed up, right? Going into the season, it was like everything I dreamed of, right? I'm getting some love from the NFL, just some scouts, right?
You're playing in a big league.
Stuff, right? I'm playing in a big league. I got Jay Hill coming in, like just a heavy hitter, a guy bringing energy. I'm excited. I'm stoked. So when it happened, I was obviously so bummed, but, you know, for some reason, I not to sound corny, I just felt peace. I was like, you know what? Like, God does have a plan for me. He does. Like, I can sit there and cry about it, and I've shed my tears for sure, but like, you know, keep crying about it, still reminiscing what could have been, what should have been, you know, it's not helping me. So, you know, the injury happened, and obviously I went on a mission, right? And that was my 4th, 5th year. So I'm getting older, you know what I'm saying? I'm playing backer, right? Like, you always hear that stigma, hey, you're getting older, like you know, your draft stock declines and whatnot. So I was like, hey dude, like I needed to go. It was now or never for me. And so what happened was, though, there was just a little bit more complication on my shoulder. I couldn't get surgery right away. All the surgeons were like, hey, dude, like, you need
to prehab first. Like, you need to get some things the way they need to be before we go in there.
Exactly. They didn't want to they wanted to mitigate the risk. Forgive me. They wanted to mitigate the risk in my shoulder. So it was weird, you know, and I didn't get surgery. So I got injured in September, and I didn't get surgery till late November.
And that wasn't going to have you ready for the combine.
Wasn't going to be ready for the combine. And my surgeon was just like, dude, if I don't go in, if we don't fix this, like, you're going to show up to the combine or pro day and not even be able to lift your shoulder. And you're for sure not going to get a shot. Right. So
it needs to be fixed, but it's not going to be ready for the combine, which means, gosh, I'm not going to be able to improve my stock and show these guys that I'm healthy. Yeah. So the best thing that I can do is come back and have 120 tackles and stay healthy.
Exactly.
And then launch myself into the league, right?
Yeah. So that was the game plan. It was like, yeah, you could, like, maybe just go, right? Hey, I have enough film. I've played 2 years, led the team tackles. So I have film, right? But they wanted to see me in this new defense. That was talking to Jay, right? Because the NFL plays that, you know, one man, one gap, right? Yes. That kind of man coverage. You got to fill your A, whatever. What we played this year, right? Which was cool. So I didn't have a whole bunch of film in that defense. And so for me, it was just, hey, the smartest thing to do was be healthy, kind of go out on your own terms and go take a real shot, you know. So.
You didn't get married while all this was going on, right?
I tried there,
so because I have like this is honestly good. I have like 10 girls that tell me the whole reason you got hurt and have to come back is so that you can meet them so you can get married before you go.
Hey, that is, you know, let's manifest that.
Okay.
Listen, we've had Chase Roberts on the show. We can help out the best we can.
I have several that have asked me about Ben, and I always talk to Gavin first, and he's like, oh, I 100% recommend Ben.
Yeah, I love Gavin. That's
BYU linebacker Ben Bywater's on the Wise Guys tonight, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and YSGuys.com. We're all over the world, as we always are on Monday nights. Used to be on Tuesdays.
Yeah, Bywater, has Panama and the Philippines and Singapore all checked in tonight, I hope.
Bywater led the Cougars in tackles, as mentioned, in 21 and 22, preparing to lead the defense here in 24. What feedback... Now, we just heard your plan. What feedback have you gotten from scouts, from the NFL scouts, on your to-do list for this fall? You know, we know your doctor's list and your list, but those guys that are looking for linebackers, what do they want to see specifically from you?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I always ask that. You know, whoever talking to them, I'm like, hey, how can I just improve my chances? Number one, obviously, they want to see you downhill, right? Like, you can never be too physical, and so I got something I got to work on too. Like before, it was, hey, we're just making tackles, so. Definitely play on their side of the line of scrimmage. And 2 is just run into the ball. You know, that's a big goal of mine, is just run into the ball. And I think a lot of that too is run into the ball. Like when you're in the midseason and you're playing games, like it's hard on the body, you know, sprinting across the field, you know, you're big, you're banged up. So for me, it's just preparation now, get my body extremely right, extremely healthy, so that when it's game time, when it's time to go, I am, you know, hustling, chasing the ball down, running to the ball across the field.
Yeah, because if you're not, Jay's going to have you out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got his own standard, right?
And for spring ball, I would imagine, based on what you've told us, won't be cleared for full contact in spring ball, right?
No, sir.
But this is enough time to rehab and get yourself looking like Hercules like you usually look, right? You should be ready to go full go by August, right?
Yes, sir. That's the game plan.
Good deal.
Absolutely.
Good deal.
Early recruiting class was all about the defense, some reinforcements coming in. Plus, you've got anchors like Tyler Batty, Jacob Robinson, talent out for yourself. What are your expectations for this second go-round defensively in the Big 12?
I'm extremely excited. Working out the Kings is going to be huge for us. And it's the standard has been set. I think this past year we got our feet wet. So I love what Coach Hill's done. I love the D staff, and for me, it irks me that I wasn't able to get a full season under my belt with these guys. So really just excited to get back to work. It's hard when you're got one arm, you're trying to be in there and rally the troops and whatnot. But as soon as we get in, I'm excited. I'm excited just for all the boys to go make plays too. That's really what it is and what it's about.
For your skill set, just your natural skill set and what you like to do on defense, is this defensive scheme that Jay's brought in, is this a better fit for you? Do you feel like this can highlight your skills better?
Absolutely. I love playing that MAC position. It's definitely different because I was used to playing the rover, which is like the boundaries, more of an outside backer. They're really tit for tat in this new defense, but it's different. That MAC, they put a lot on your shoulders, and so you really got to come to play. You got to know what you're doing. You got to be able to command. And what's nice though is you're either blitzing, you're dropping back, like you're never just kind of hanging stagnant. So
Dave and I were talking, we kind of went through the early signing class and stocked up a lot on defense. They got some monsters up front, and I know that from your perspective, if you have dudes that require a double team every time off the ball, that frees you up to run to the ball. Were you as excited as we were when we saw some of these D linemen that they picked up?
Absolutely. The bigger those guys are, just the better it is for me. So I live with my roommate's John Nelson, and he kind of plays that 3 tech. So I'm like, hey, baby, like just let's go out to dinner. You know what I'm saying? Just hey, put on a few more LVs.
And John missed some time.
Yeah, he did.
And he was really one of our best inside guys. He can play inside and outside.
Yeah.
People don't recognize because he just kind of quietly gets it done. How much when he was out, BYU missed him up front.
He's a workhorse.
Yeah.
I love that kid. I mean, he really works hard. He just doesn't talk too much. I mean, well, I know him really well, so obviously, with me, but understood. Like, he's just a good dude, down to earth, and just gets the job done.
As you stood on the sideline and studied the rest of the Big 12 after that Kansas game, and you watched West Virginia kind of run freely, and Iowa State came and really surprised everyone by what they did. Was the Big 12 more difficult than you thought it was going to be as a unit? And is that the marching order to get back for round 2, was just the physicality of it all, or what did you pick up?
I think, that's a great question. I think for what I saw personally was, like, you can't, if you're playing these big games week in, week out, like, you can't kill yourself. Like, you have to come to play. I feel like there's a few games, that we could have won. Obviously, I think everybody knows that. It's like, dude, with these big boys, like, they're not going to give it to you. So it's like, for us, that extra level of discipline, locking in, like, you can't, you got to come to play Saturdays.
It's kind of what we're seeing with basketball.
Yeah.
You got to play 2 halves.
Have to.
Yeah, and every night is a challenge, right? So, hey, BYU linebacker Ben Bywater's on with the Wise Guys tonight. Are you still 235, 6'3", 235? Or are you a little under? Or are you more?
I weighed in at 231 this morning.
231.
But you will be 235 to 240 for fall, right?
I had a tough winter. Your boy was putting everything in his mouth. So I had to slim down a little bit. We'll bulk back up.
Yeah, and Ben, by the way, from Bountiful, Utah. So he's a homegrown in-state kid.
Holiday boss.
Holiday. Why was
Holiday?
The boy Max Tooley's from Bountiful.
Oh, that's right. Max is
What high school did you go to?
I went to Olympus. He went to Bountiful.
That's my bad, because I wrote Bountiful.
Yeah, was Mark Lyons at Olympus?
Mark Lyons was, but before my time.
Before you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so
Yes,
Mark,
sir.
longtime radio
Holiday.
guy. Yeah, so Holiday, that's where my wife's family's like from, Holiday.
Really?
You know that big rock right by the freeway?
Suicide Rock?
That used to be Grandpa's Rock.
Really?
He finally sold it because the liability was too much because everybody was climbing it and putting graffiti and stuff on it. But
So Guatemala City, Guatemala.
right,
is
so
your
that's
mission.
where that mission is where you went, right?
You still got your Spanish?
Claro que sí.
Okay, so share with us how you might introduce you and your companion to Blaine and I on the street.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. ¿Qué tal? Soy Elder Bywater. Él es mi compañero, Blaine. Estamos aquí para compartir un mensaje.
Nice.
Probably doesn't come out how it used to, but hey, still dabble.
Did you take Spanish at BYU after?
Yeah, I just took that little. You can just take a test and then test out.
Yeah, keep doing that.
If we had a Cabo trip together, I could get us around. All right?
Okay,
I could get the boys around.
So
That's awesome.
So my son-in-law Dallas Lloyd served in down South America.
Okay.
So he's good. So we love taking him anywhere in the Caribbean or down to Mexico or wherever.
Yeah.
We have the Philippines. So we have that Tagalog covered. We got Spanish covered. We got French covered. We got German covered. We got Gavin covering Cambodian. It comes in handy.
He went
on
to
cruise
Long
ships.
Beach, spoke
He went to
Cambodia.
Long Beach, but it
Yeah.
comes in handy on cruise ships, believe it or not. And so we pretty much have it covered when we travel. But we'll take you too, and you can be our second Spanish guy.
And you got half the team that speaks a foreign language, which
cool.
makes BYU unique.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Are the defenders out there ever shouting stuff in their mission language
No,
that no one else can understand?
My boy, so Isaac Rex spoke Samoan, and so he could chirp the other dudes who spoke Samoan. But like, you're never like talking smack to the other team in a different language. Just kind of like, if you know they speak the same language, then they'll banter each other.
You want them to understand the smack you're talking.
Yeah,
you don't want to lose it.
There was a time when Brian Taylor, Elder Taylor now, and Michael Smith, and in fact, I think it was the time when Jeff Chapman was playing. Jeff's come on the show. It's like 4 of the starting 5 served missions, Spanish-speaking missions, and they would be out on the floor and they'd be speaking in Spanish to each other, and the other teams would be, looking at them like, what the heck?
Like, we had an offensive
what are these guys
line.
saying?
We had an offensive line a couple years ago where all 5 of them had a different language.
Yeah, different language.
And down there in the trenches, every now and then, they'd say stuff, which is good. We're waiting on the Big 12 schedule. We expect the BYU-Utah game to be Thanksgiving weekend. How excited are you to get another shot at the rivalry game?
I'm excited. Like, there's so much energy in that game, especially when I played in 2021. Yeah. So it'll be. I've always.
What's your record against them right now?
From what I played, 1-0.
1-0. Ben's 1-0. Ben has never lost to the Utes. Let it be written.
When you step on the field against the Utes and with the portal and all that stuff, I mean, half the kids aren't even from here anymore. But there's still something about the red against the blue and the north and the south. And what's that like for a player?
It's so fun, man. Like, that was the game in 2021 was awesome. But like, I've been on both sides of it. I've been a fan, right? Growing up, like, there's so much anxiety involved. I swear, like, you can't even sleep the night before. So I know exactly how it is for the fans. But as a player, like, it's just business. You know what I'm saying? Go out there, get just prepare. Don't blow it up. Don't make it something bigger than it is. For me, obviously, play with passion. Go out there, do your job, execute, lay the wood. But other than that, like, it's just a cool experience.
And we know it's going to be a road game. How motivating will it be to go up there and do what you did in 21, but in front of their audience?
So motivating. That's like something you dream of. Like, I always kind of dreamed of playing up at Rice Eccles. So it'll be cool.
That's good stuff. Yeah. You when you came in, you're sitting over. We call that the green room. Even though, what color is that carpet?
Like brown.
It's brown.
So, well, it's the brown room. And entertainment, the place where the guests wait is called the green room, so we call it the green room over there. But you heard us talking about Fred and Kyle Van Noy and Sione and these guys. How important is it to the program, to players like you who are in the program and players that are deciding whether or not they're coming to the program, to have guys like Fred in the league and know that that's a pathway that you can get to from here?
Yeah, no, Fred's so inspiring to all of us. I think you see a guy like that perform at such a high level. It's so cool, right? Like, I remember even like you guys were talking about Kyle Van Noy as well. Like, when I was kind of in like junior high, like Kyle was like my idol, right? And I got to high school, Fred was my idol. You know what I'm saying? And Sione, I saw a little bit, but I was kind of on my mission for Sione balling. But like, those guys really, they just paved the way. They're so cool. I love seeing that. Love supporting it. And so like, what's cool though is like, I feel like we have so many dudes in the league that are balling right now. Yeah. Like, I used to live with Zane Anderson, made a huge tackle. Like, it was a hard tackle he made on Cavante Turpin in the open field. Like, I saw that. Like, we watched it live. Everybody was jumping. It was so exciting. So I really feel like, I'm proud of everybody in the league. Tyler, Puka.
And Puka's killing it.
So cool.
And Tyler's killing. I mean, Puka's killing it. Like, Fred's. Yeah. It's hard to know who's having more of an impact and who's more visible right now, because Fred literally is maybe the best defender in the whole league.
Absolutely.
And Puka's the greatest rookie receiver in the history of the game.
So cool.
I can't even believe I can say that about him.
It's wild.
So does that, and you played with him.
Did you ever take a couple of pops at him coming across the middle in practice, Puka?
No, those royalty. Just don't touch Puka. Everybody stay away from Puka, me too. I'm like, I want to win games. All right, everybody stay away from Puka.
Wise man.
Puka.
Wise man.
Did you have any idea, because you were over on the other side watching him do his thing, that he could be this good in the NFL?
Yeah, absolutely. And Puka's got, I'm so happy because Puka's the best dude. Like nobody is more deserving of that. You know what I'm saying? He's such a good guy. I'm just, all his success he deserves. But yeah, talk about a guy that just big, strong, fast, gets out the gate. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Well, look,
awesome.
we saw, just to play off what Blaine asked you, because we saw Keaton Slovis come in because he saw Jaron Hall go in the league, and he saw Zach Wilson before him go in the league. And then there's this path of linebackers going to the league. Dax Milne gets in the league. Puka's in the league. So the receivers are there with the running backs are,
Yeah, we got Tyler and Jamal.
And then Taysom's playing 5 positions.
Taysom's the biggest freak in the whole league.
But with a guy ready to get a job, to see those 3, especially Sione and Fred and Kyle on TV and the highlight reels every weekend. So when all of a sudden you're a BYU linebacker, it's different.
Yeah.
As opposed to what? You guys have linebackers out there?
Yeah.
And so I would imagine those guys are pioneers and paving a way for you.
Absolutely. You see, obviously, what they're doing is inspiring, but it's hey, they're goal touching, they're doing it. Why not me? Why not? Let's shoot for the moon. Absolutely, go for it. Yeah, absolutely. So
when you have to think scouts are going, yeah, this is the place that produced these guys.
Yeah.
Let's see who they have this year, right? And that's something. And when you come to BYU, you know that you're going to have the attention of NFL scouts because there's already guys in the league that have come through the program.
Yeah, and especially those guys giving a good rep about BYU in the league, like Danny Sorensen, those guys just get work done, go do their job, do their thing, and it helps the rest of us, right? And so
and outside the echo chamber says, hey, don't forget my boy Blake and the O lineman.
Oh, my boy,
be free,
baby,
and Brady
be free.
And Blake, hey. It was 3 offensive linemen drafted 3 years in a row.
There's going to be another one this spring.
Yep.
So
it's pretty cool.
A couple more questions with Ben Bywater, and then we'll get him out on the rest of his Monday night here on the Wise Guys. How valuable have you seen the Royal Blue Collective, both with you personally and with the team, as the world's adapted to NIL? How valuable are they to guys like you?
Love the Royal Blue. Men, you got Mark Homer. Those guys literally take care of us. Those guys are the bread and butter. So if you guys are watching this, love you both. I appreciate you guys. And I'm so grateful those guys stepped in and put systems in place and really got the ball rolling. So
Mark's been on the show a few times, and they laid out how they do it, and it's not a free bag of money. It's this for this.
Absolutely.
And part of that is public appearces and trying to be a rock star around town, which shouldn't
be that hard to do, right?
What you got going on, but for what they do you have any sponsors you want to pitch?
Yeah. Do you have some companies that you're affiliated with in NIL right now?
So I did a deal with Intermountain Healthcare, which was awesome. Those guys have taken care of me on all my surgeries, so really grateful for that. But other than that, I'm doing that little podcast with Crew, which is fun. Love Laced Up, so it's been fun. But yeah, if any Tom Ford, Givenchy, all those, Gucci, whatever you guys want to sponsor me, absolutely, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm willing and able.
You can pitch for NIL stuff also on this program.
That's right. You can talk about what you have, and you can talk about what you would like to have.
Yeah. All right, let's do 5 questions and get Ben Bywater out of here.
We always do 5 questions. These are the ones we ask you just to answer. Okay. And remember, choose wisely, because these 10 girls, they're listening to this show today.
I'm locked in.
And we're writing this down.
And I've got one in particular that, she's a great athlete. I see her at the gym. She's a great athlete. I'm like, oh, my gosh. If she marries Ben, I'm recruiting their kids before they have them. they would rival Bronson and Hillary Kafusi's kids.
Let's just try to get them on a date.
Yes, first.
We
got to do that. We're on it.
Love it. Appreciate you, boys.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Favorite sports movie?
Favorite sports movie, Forever Strong.
Oh,
what's that about?
Nice.
That's the rugby movie about Highland High School.
Highland High School rugby.
Yeah, it's a good one.
National champs, right?
Yeah, it's a good one.
That is a good one. And nobody has chosen that one.
Of all the guys in a year and a half, not one.
Really?
So,
but he's hanging with
Forever
one
Strong.
of the Salt Lake City high schools. That's a great story. I had completely forgotten about that. I need to watch that.
Yeah,
again.
that's a good one.
That's a good one. As you might imagine, remember the Titans is kind of in the number one. But our basketball guys all come in with Hoosiers. So, your favorite singer or band?
Favorite singer is a guy named Mike. Just Mike. Period. Looking him up.
Just
What
Mike?
do you mean? The guy's name's Mike?
Yeah, it's Mike period, but it's like good lifestyle music.
Mike period?
Yeah.
Is it like spelled out period or Mike with a dot?
Mike with a dot.
With the dot. So if I go to YouTube and go Mike with a dot, some stuff's
give
going
these
to come
guys
up.
some, like, I told them about the Moss band the other night. Have you ever heard of the Moss?
The Moss.
It's a brand new local band. I think they're the next Imagine Dragons.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, and they're here local.
Okay, cool.
And so I'm like, hey, everybody, I just saw this band. I'm telling you right now. And so you're telling us, dude, so the Moss we told you about. Now the other new band is Mike.
Is Mike.
Period.
I got a funny story, actually. So when I was like in 7th grade, Imagine Dragons was downtown in like some little tiny venue in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
But the opener was a kid who went to my high school who was a few years older than me. He opened for Imagine Dragons. This is like 2012, right? 2013.
Okay.
So we go. I'm just going to support this dude. I'm with my sister. I had class. It was like a Tuesday night. I had class the next day. I'm all grumpy. I'm mad because it's getting late and I have stuff to like turn in. So we leave before Imagine Dragons comes out, and like literally 2 months later they blow up. They're worldwide. I'm like, you know,
it was right there.
Hey, patience is a virtue.
The Imagine Dragons, Neon Trees. We've had a couple of the members of Neon Trees on. Yeah. There have been some big bands that kind of found themselves here.
Yeah.
In Provo. The Killers have some ties here. We've had some interactions with Dan Reynolds from Imagine Dragons over the years.
It'd be great if AC/DC had a tie to Provo.
Yeah, because that's his band. AC/DC's his.
Yeah,
that's his. So Mike period. I can't wait to check that one out.
Now look, if we ask you like 8 months from now who your favorite band is, and you say Steve period, we're going to know that there is no Mike period.
No, I'm looking them up. Names. I'm looking up Mike.
We're looking that up.
Yeah.
All right.
Our people in the chat, you guys can Google Mike period. Tell us if it's any good. So, okay, here we go. Favorite breakfast cereal.
Favorite breakfast cereal would have to be Crave.
What is Crave?
Crave with a K.
Crave. That's got like.
There we go. You know what I'm talking about?
Crave fans in it. What's it got?
You don't like it? Oh,
it's got like marshmallows and stuff. Or what?
It's just got like chocolate on the inside. It's like a little Kit Kat vibe.
See, I can respect that. I thought you were going to say, well, it's granola and berries.
We've learned a lot about Ben Bywater tonight.
Crave. Hey, just all I know about Crave is it's got chocolate in it. That's all I need to know. Okay. Your favorite defensive touchdown?
Would have to be for sure mine versus SMU, the little pick six.
Oh,
it's not a little pick six. It's a 76-yard pick six.
Yeah, and that was a game changer in a bowl game.
So we all remember it. So you catch it, and were you thinking you were gone, or were you thinking the other 11 guys are going to catch you before you get down the field?
No, I was just like trying to like push. You know, I'm trying to just run as fast as I can, and all of a sudden like he dives. I kind of jump over him. I'm like, no freaking way. Like, I'm about to hit him. So I'm like, no way.
I'm doing this. Yeah. And I didn't pull a hamstring.
So you get down there, you cross the goal line. Are you exhausted, or are you just, can you believe you got there, or what's the feeling?
Adrenaline's pumping so hard. I was so excited just hanging out.
I don't worry about backers and DB. I worry when a D lineman gets like a tipped one and they're running like, he's going to pull a hamstring. He's got to slow down. Pass it off to somebody. Help this guy.
Did you have any defensive touchdowns at Olympus, or is this number one?
I didn't.
So this is it?
Yeah, this is it.
Okay, so a couple this year.
Couple this year.
We got to run it back.
110 plus tackles and a couple of pick sixes.
If you're ever going to just have one, have it be in a bowl game so your kids can see it for years to come.
Except for this year, it'll be in New Year's Six Bowl.
Yeah.
So favorite. Last question.
Yeah.
Favorite thing about Kalani Sitake.
My favorite thing about Kalani Sitake is his personal relationship with me. I really feel like every time I go into his office, he knows what's going on in my life. You know, he relates to me. He tells me about stories about his life, you know. And so like, man, like some of those moments have been the most special moments for me. So I'm grateful for him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Ben Bywater, we will see you at spring practice, standing next to us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But full go in August.
You can break it down for us when we come.
And, the season starts in August, so it's got to be, Southern Illinois. You'll be on the field.
Yeah, we're locked and loaded that game. So,
okay. All right.
Yes,
Thank you for coming.
Appreciate you.
Ben Bywater, BYU linebacker, and again,
and we've been joking with
one of the best personalities on the team.
We've been joking with Byam. I'm going to find him the best one.
Yeah, we're going to follow up on that.
All it takes is one, people. All it takes is one. There we go.
All right.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Outstanding. And BYU, again, that schedule a week from Tuesday, and we'll break it down here on the Wise Guys. What a great representative of everything BYU is.
Yes.
Ben Bywater.
Yeah, Ben's one of my favorites. And, Ben in the weight room, when Ben's in the weight room, when he's healthy, and it's actually a little bit scary how much weight he can hoist around.
Yeah, good stuff.
Very powerful, explosive athlete. And here's the thing. He was on the pathway. I'm convinced if he stays healthy, he leads the team in tackles again in this new defense. Probably eclipses what he'd done in the previous 2 years, and he's drafted and he goes and plays. And so I love his mentality that something's in store for me, that God has something in store for him and has a plan. He's supposed to be back here this year. And I hope something special happens to him.
Yeah, we're glad
that he has
back.
a great year and he gets to live out that dream to be in the NFL and follow the footsteps of Fred and these guys.
Our next guest is a former Cougar who led BYU basketball to its highest national ranking in program history, number 3, after a 17-0 start to the 1987-88 season. Our pleasure to welcome Jeff Chapman to the Wise Guys via Zoom from the great state of New York. Jeff, welcome to the show. What are we doing? We're working. What, DJ?
His camera and mic are struggling right now.
All right, his camera and microphone are struggling right now.
He's on the road in New York? Is that the deal?
Is that where he's from? Or
No,
is
he's
it
up in
Alabama?
Washington.
Oh, he's in Washington?
Yeah, he's up in, sort of. It's like fake Washington.
Fake Washington?
Yeah, because he's in Vancouver, which is really just an excuse to not pay state tax.
I had
Because
him in New York.
it's really a suburb of Portland, and it's like, you know what? Why don't we form a little community of Portland just on the other side of the border so we don't have to pay any state tax? But then what we'll do is we'll go down and we'll buy all of our cars and washing machines and all big ticket items in Portland because they don't have any sales tax. So it's really it's a fake Washington town.
All right. Well, while we're working that out, let me tell you, BYU basketball 14-4, 2-3 in the Big 12. I swear I had him from New York. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah. Well, and remember, Jeff grew up in Mumford, Alabama.
Yeah.
I've been there. When he comes out, we're going to talk about the time I went to Mumford. So
National ranking for BYU is number 21 in the AP Top 25. They're number 5 in the net, number 10 in the Ken Palm. And Joe Lunardi still has him as a 5 seed for the NCAA tournament. And all of this after a disappointing Saturday at Texas Tech.
Isn't it amazing the difference between leagues? Like if they'd lost a couple games in the WCC, they would never be back on the radar again. We'd be saying, man, they're gonna have to go on a streak to even get into the NCAA tournament, and they've lost some games because you know what? It's expected that you lose games on the road in this league.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there he is. Hey, Jeff, good to have you here on the Wise Guys.
Are you in the office up in? I was telling everybody that Vancouver is really a fake Washington city. It's a suburb of Portland that just made itself up so they didn't have to pay state taxes. I'm right, am I not?
Dave, don't you know I'm a country boy?
Yeah, I had that all wrong.
New York?
I had you from upstate New York. That's where Blaine's from. For whatever reason,
he knows that you will go camping with, like you like to go camping with me and stuff. So he thought you must be from New York, right? That's what he thought.
I'm not tough like Blaine. Those New York boys are tough. I'm just a soft country boy.
Hey, look, let's go back to February 6, 1988. BYU's number 3 in the AP Top 25. Number 1, Arizona. Number 2, UNLV. Had already lost. The Cougars, all they had to do was beat UAB in your home state of Alabama, and the program would reach number 1 in the polls for the first time. But the Blazers had other plans. They put a good game together and beat you 102-83. But the reason I bring that up is, do you still remember the swing of emotions from that weekend, and what did you learn from all that?
Yeah, I learned that people never forget that. I'm trying to forget it. Once I forget it, people continue to bring it up.
Well, we're bringing it up tonight. So what was that? What were those emotions like?
It was horrible. My mom and my mom's dad and my father's dad had never seen me play basketball before. Not even in the Pee Wee League, JV, junior high, nothing. That was the first time my granddad, both my grandfathers, saw me play live, and we laid an egg.
Oh,
Here it gets worse. So
Go ahead.
My high school girlfriend was a basketball player on UAB, and she was dating a guy on the team, and he was just an average player. But he lit us up.
Oh, no.
And I was the one guarding him. He destroyed me. There's so many horrible memories from that night, and people continue to bring it up. Would you guys please just let it die?
Okay, that's it. That's the last time we're ever going to say anything about it. I didn't realize the depth of the former girlfriend, the boyfriend lighting you up.
The pain is still real.
Man, that is That's heavy, brother. I didn't know that was that big of a deal.
Yeah, there's more things too, but I am trying to forget.
That was a loaded team though. When I think back about that team and the talent in that team, you got you there, which I call when Jeff would catch that ball on the short corner, he would just turn over that shoulder and unstoppable. Unless they doubled him on the catch, it was going down. It was going down like nobody I've ever seen with that kind of consistency. You got Michael Smith, who could score on anybody, NBA or otherwise, right? You got Nate Call, who was just a floor general and did such a great job of getting you guys into everything. Brian Taylor with his length and confidence in shooting the deep ball and his creativity with passing. Andy Toulson, who could shoot lights out. Marty Hawes. I remember when Pittsburgh comes into the Marriott Center, ranked number like 2 in the country, and they were gonna full court trap you all game long. You just throw it to Marty, and they couldn't trap him all night long. He just dribbled past every time. So one of the fastest, most explosive guys ever. Gary Trost, who's a big guy that could score. I mean, think about the weapons on that team. That was unbelievable. How was that to play with that group of talent?
It was wonderful. The best thing about that team was that all of the guys on the team were just outstanding people. Nate Call, great guy. Marty Haas, great guy. Michael Smith, wonderful guy. Jim Yusuf, you forgot Jim Yusuf.
Yeah, Yusevich, another big, with really skilled.
Just a salt of the earth type of people. Andy Toulson, my goodness, the quality of the people were there, but they could play basketball. They were great. They were great people, but they were great basketball players as well. That's what I remember the most.
Jeff, on our live stream tonight, Linda Murray says, "Hey, Jeff, glad it's on the show. Could you say hi for me? We've been friends since we were both freshmen. He knows I'm his biggest fan except for his family." So Linda says hi to the great Jeff Chapman.
Linda, thank you very much. As old as I am now, that really helps me hearing things like that still. So thank you very much.
What I'm impressed with, Jeff, is you just mentioned all the players that were on that team, and you finished with 1,824 points, which is still 6th best in school history. How did you get the ball enough to get all those points with all those gunners out there?
We're luckily Haas and Call were great passers. They were pass first guys. So we had a fast break that we call early, and we would get the rebound and get it to Haas or to Call, and then whoever was the number 2, if it was Taylor or Toulson, would get on the wing, and then they would pass it down to the wing, and then I would go down the opposite side, and then I would come across the lane, and they would throw it to me every time. And if they couldn't get it to me, Smitty was always taking the ball out of bounds, and he would throw it in, and then he would trail. If they couldn't get it to me, they would pass it back to him at the top of the key, and he could hit that trail 3. I remember playing down in Pauley Pavilion against UCLA, our senior year. And I remember Walt Hazard was the coach, and he came over to talk to the team and to Coach Anderson and our head coach, and said that, Coach Wooden is going to be here. So we were all excited to play in front of Coach Wooden. And I remember we were running early in the game. They threw it into me. I scored a couple of times, but then they threw it into me. They tried to throw it into me, but I was doubled. They swung it back, and Smitty was just coming across, and he caught it in stride. I can remember Walt Hazard yelling, "Oh, blank." right when he hit the bottom of the net. He didn't even come close to hitting the rim. Boom. And we just, it was so exciting to beat them down there. But I'll never forget that, him saying that right when Smitty was shooting it in.
That's awesome. See, now Dave brought up an unfavorable memory, and then you just brought up one of the great memories, and that's beating UCLA at 3rd place with John Wooden in the house. How about that? That's pretty cool.
Hey, let's go.
That was a highlight. We watched those guys when we were little play and win all those championships. So it was a thrill for all of us.
Here's what another coach said, going back to the UAB game, and then we'll leave
what?
it. Yeah, I know.
Dave,
we're going back.
Dave,
Jeff, this is good.
I thought we were friends, Dave.
We're friends. You know that. A day after the game, Gene Bartow said, quote, about your team, I think they're a great team. I think they're headed to the Final Four, and I'll still vote them number one. You guys were that good.
So even in a loss, there's a good memory.
Unless
from
he's
UAB.
lying, Jeff.
So,
you guys were that good.
I wanted you just quick, like, it wasn't just about basketball when you were there. You had an incredible experience at BYU. You and I talk about it all the time, about our experience. When you come down and stay with us, and you and I just get to reminisce about going camping back when we were in school and some of the fun things we did. By the way, he says he's a country guy. I'm the New York kid. He comes from Alabama. And I'm the first guy that ever took him camping and fishing.
Maybe they don't do that back
he was
there.
afraid the bears were going to come get us. And he made us sleep with a gun in the tent just in case the bear came. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that the little gun wasn't going to do anything if a bear came to get us. But you had a great experience at BYU outside of basketball that really changed your life and the trajectory of everything you did. You know, we've spent a little bit of time on this basketball experience. What about the experience outside of basketball for you at BYU?
Before when I got the scholarship to BYU and people started to find out in the area, Alabama area, some positive, most of it was negative. They kept telling me, how the Mormon church was a cult and how they worship Joseph Smith. They're not Christians and they're polygamists and all this negative stuff. And I just knew I was supposed to go there. I wasn't sure about all those things they were telling me, but I knew I was supposed to be there. And when I got there and saw the quality of people, I couldn't believe it. The people were so nice. They were so friendly. They were so giving. They were just trying to help. And the relationships I built there have just been unbelievable. All the things that they said about BYU and the church were untrue. And I remember when I got baptized, my mom and dad found out and they were very angry because my mom and dad are really big time Southern Baptists and really high up in our church. So they didn't like it at all. But as my dad and I visited, he visited with me and some of the members of the church when he would come visit. I remember him telling me that one of the guys in the community was bad-mouthing the church. And my dad said, wait a minute, I've seen these people. Their church may not be true, but those are the best people I've ever met.
I love it.
My dad came around.
That's a classic
That's
story.
awesome. And of course you met your amazing wife, Leah, and all of that while you were there, right?
Yeah, Leah is descended from Mormon royalty.
Oh,
you have me coming there, not a member, and Leah's great three great grandfathers, Charles W. Penrose.
Wow.
So it was how opposites attract.
yes.
You have me a heathen marrying this big time descendant. Pioneer stock woman. So
See, Jeff and I used to compare notes on this, like, because our wives. So Leah has a great history with ancestors that walked across the plains, and my wife is a great. I don't know how many greats, like 4 greats. Her grandfather is Hiram Smith, and these two purebreds married a couple of mongrels, and so Jeff and I would have to hang together because we're the last thing from a purebred. So,
and what does that tell you about them, and what does that tell you about us?
Yeah.
It tells me that you both are lucky.
Who got the better end of the stick on that?
Oh, hey.
I think everyone wins. Everyone wins.
We outkicked our coverage so far. Like, I was just talking to Brenda last night, and she was asking me how I tricked her into all of this. Like, I don't know what I did, but I was very clever back then. And Jeff may have been more clever than me. I have to say that. So,
former Cougar Jeff Chapman's on the Wise Guys tonight, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. Played in 122 games, 64 starts at BYU, averaged 15 points and 6 rebounds. His senior season, it was 19.5 points a game and 7 rebounds during that special year. Let's bring in Mark Durant, BYU radio basketball analyst, and have him sit in with these final questions with you, Jeff. From one big man to another, what do you think of Ali Khalifa's ability to pass the basketball?
Is that for me?
Yeah, for you, Jeff.
So Jordan and I, my son Jordan, we were watching the Texas Tech game, and we watched him, and Jordan, you know who he compared him to? What pro player did Jordan, my son, compare him to?
Current or because I was thinking Sabonis. Like I'm talking about old Sabonis though, not the new Sabonis.
No, he's playing right now.
Current.
The big dude for the Nuggets,
Jokic.
Yes, Jokic.
Yeah.
Jordan said Jokic. And I was like, really?
Wow.
He said, watch. And he made some moves, and they're unorthodox, just like Jokic. And I said, you were right. And, he had a stretch where he kind of took the game over there for a second. And then they made the adjustment. And I was like, wow, we were thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we just brought our good friend Mark Durant in here with
Jeff.
us. And he's right here, right next to me, Jeff. But
he's joined our panel of questionnaires.
He's in here. He can ask questions.
Man, I got some good ones for
ask
Jeff.
Mark too.
But no, I got to ask Mark a question first.
All
right, go ahead.
I'll make this comment about Ollie, but what I have to remember about him is he had a non-weight bearing injury this summer, and he came into camp, I don't know, maybe 35 or 40 pounds overweight. And I was sitting next to Danny Ainge, and I said, I don't think this dude can make it 3 times up and down the floor. And Danny said, wait till you see him pass the ball. He says he has a court vision and an understanding of a game that's as good as anybody I've ever seen in the game. So he's got to drop some weight. Yes, I agree with you, Blaine, but wait till you see this kid pass the ball. I was like, yeah, right. He's just a big fat guy. So I bet he's lost 30 pounds. He probably still needs to go another 10 or 15. Danny was right. I haven't seen a big guy like that in college basketball pass the ball like that. Am I crazy thinking that he's as good as I've seen in a long time?
Well, if Danny Ainge says it, you can take it to the bank.
Yeah,
that guy is a basketball savant. I was there, Blaine, when you asked him that.
That's
question.
right. You were sitting right next to me. We went to practice.
Yeah,
that
we
day.
were
Dave
all
was
there.
there too.
Yeah.
Dave was right there, and when I love sitting down with Danny Ainge and just talking basketball.
Yeah.
That guy is a savant, and he's forgotten more about basketball than most people in this world know.
Yeah, it was fun. I forgot that you came with us, that you were down visiting, and you were actually coming down to business, but you stayed with us, and then we went over to practice that day. And we should mention,
right.
you are currently Mark Pope's alumni representative to the basketball program. You still doing that again? You're doing that this whole year,
yeah,
right?
I'm the president of the Basketball Alumni Association.
Wow, that sounds important.
Well, I just do what they tell me, so it's fun.
No, what it means is that I can always tag on with them and go to any practice I want to.
So, President Chapman, do you have a question for Mark Durant?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yes. When Mark and the game, what game was that? When Mark Pope hit, it was Baylor. When he hit that water and it sprayed you and
Greg
Wrubell.
Greg, you and Greg Wrubell, you guys had a quick reaction, then you got right back into character. How did you guys do that?
Man, you can't really tell from the video, but we got just drenched, Jeff. I mean, and it was so unexpected, and there's this big loud crash, and then I'm just covered. And Greg's immediate response is, I got to protect my equipment, because that's like his baby, and he doesn't want to get knocked off the air. And I'm just trying to process what happened and start laughing. I mean, it was hilarious to me. I mean, I hope, coaches, as you know, they get fired up, and it was funny, and I didn't have to shower that night, so it all worked out for me. It was actually hilarious, and I made a point to find the bottle after, and I grabbed it, and it's just crushed. And so I have that. That's I don't have a lot.
Have Mark sign it, man. That's going to be worth a lot of money.
Hey, well, one question.
When they go to the Final Four this year.
Yeah.
This question's for both of our guests here. As we wade into the deeper waters of the Big 12, where do you see the biggest challenge lying between now and the NCAA tournament with BYU trying to stay alive in this thing? Start with you, Jeff.
The biggest challenge? You
Yeah.
mean as far as team or just overall?
Just as this team trying to stay afloat in the Big 12 and making it to the end.
In my opinion, they have got to figure out how to finish games. And that is easier said than done. because the talent level that they're playing against every night is just incredible. I'm sure there's something they could do. I can't put my finger on it. If someone could put their finger on, they would make the adjustment. But I predicted them to be 500 in the league and go to the tournament. Right now, what they're 2-3.
Yeah.
Are they 2-3 in league?
Yeah,
right
and they've got 2 home games coming up. Of course, one of them is against the top 5 team in the country. So tomorrow night.
Right. Yeah, and we always in the history of BYU play top teams in the Marriott Center very well. You talked about that Pittsburgh team when Marty Haas just ran through all their athletic guys. They were number 7, and we took care of them. So I'm looking forward to watching that. But finishing the games, they play so well. But at the very end, they're having a hard time making the key stops that they need to, and executing the offense and making some big shots at the end. That's been the difference. If they can figure that out, they're going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, amen to what Jeff says. And I guess the other thing I would add is they need to be healthy. I think they haven't really been for 2 months now. And the way they play, and they have to play with such intensity, and it just wears on you, and the athleticism in the conference, it just beats you down, and they're just kind of fading at the end. And the more guys you have to come in and replenish that will help. I mean, not having Noah Waterman, he's a terrific defender, 6'11".
He's a great offensive rebounder, too.
Great offensive rebounder. So that hurt them. I mean, so that's a big part of it. The other thing is, what BYU really needs is a Jeff Chapman that – that is just so solid and reliable and can get you a bucket when you need it. Things are falling apart here. Let's give it to Jeff.
Yeah.
And although BYU's got great players, nobody argues that. I just don't know who that Jeff Chapman is at the end of the game for BYU to say, hey, just get him the ball. We'll be fine.
I thought Foose was going to be that player. Why is he not?
I think it's really interesting, and I'm interested to get all of your opinion on this. I think they were ready to build this passing game with a aspect of this offense that would then also go into the post, force teams to double team Foose, kick it back out, and get back to the passing game. When Foose had that extended injury, and Ollie started to play more, they started to play more 5 out, even 4 out in a high post. And they got away from throwing the ball into the post. They really didn't have anybody that could play with their back to the basket. And they got so comfortable and had so much success with that. Now Foose comes back. And I just, even in the last game, or when he played last, I get this sense that he's like, I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to do in this offense. And I don't think anybody else out there really has made that turn where they're like, okay, Foose is in. We're going to play offensively a little different now. We're going to play through the post, but we're going to play through the low post now, and we're going to be comfortable with that. In my opinion, if they can figure out how to do both and run 2 little variations of the offense, one when Foose is in the game that forces teams to double in the post and play inside out, and another where they get their penetration off of ball screens and dribble drives and ball movement, they can really create problems for teams. I just feel like they haven't figured that out yet, and I don't know why. Am I crazy with that?
Well, I mean, Jeff could kind of speak, as a big man. I think if I was BYU, I would deputize Jeff Chapman in the offseason and say, you're a coach for 2 weeks. Pay Jeff whatever exorbitant amount of money he would demand. And so
I start at 7 figures.
Yeah, we figured you would.
Go and work with Fusini for 2 weeks, because Jeff is as good as anybody. And you have these resources, great players. And, man, if I could have spent 2 weeks with Jeff Chapman, just pick his brain and see how he did things. Anyway, that's beside the point. But Fus was injured before the season, so he didn't get to practice as much as I'm sure he'd like. And then he has been injured for 6 weeks. And I think really for the first time in this last game, he was moving like he wasn't worried about injuring himself again. So it's hard to implement all those things that you're talking about, Blaine, which I agree with. I mean, I'd love to see an offense where Foose and Ali Khalifa were on the floor at the same time.
Yeah, how about that play high-low?
Oh, good point.
Oh, man. But it's just been tough to get him enough minutes and get everyone comfortable with that. Now it's hard to do that because every game is so intense.
Every possession matters.
Is critical. See, it's hard to experiment at this point in the season.
Yeah, that is tough. I was Ben, when he just said have them both on the floor. Imagine Ollie up top, and then Foose down low, and you're feeding Foose from straight down the barrel from the top of the key. And it's so hard for defenses to adjust and decide which is the weak side and who's supposed to help. And it's just so much easier to feed the post from there. And we know Ollie could do it. Those two on the floor at the same time. I mean, I feel like they really need to figure out how to do that and take advantage of it, because it gives them some matchups that people can't defend in this league.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see it till next season, because you can't do it in the league, right? You can't go practice stuff. Like tomorrow night they're playing the number one defense in the country. How much time can they go, let's try this high-low and see if it works out? But when you have 13 non-conference games like they were going to have, but Khalifa was hurt and then Foose got hurt, and now the offense runs better with Khalifa, that it might just take – it might just take next season in the non-conference to work out this dream high-low scenario. But the good news is
everybody's back except for Spencer Johnson, right?
Yeah, they're going to have a lot of guys back, and obviously guys off the mission. And I mean, the future looks bright, but you want to win games.
Yeah, you want to win games.
Now, and I think Foose is because he's been hesitant, he's going back to what he knows, which is catch it, be strong, right-hand jump hook. And before the injury, he was really starting to develop into a Jeff Chapman type game. I mean, if I see Foose, and if he turned and faced and hit a little 10-foot jumper, turned to the baseline, which I still have dreams about Jeff Chapman turning baseline. And hit.
It's funny
if he
because
could learn that type of shot, he could be. He's already unstoppable, but man, you see it.
When Jeff came to practice that day, Mark, we were talking about Foose, and Foose got a ball down on the low block, but it was actually the low block extended. It was probably a short corner, and he caught the ball. And Jeff said, "Why didn't you just turn baseline and shoot a jumper right there? Like, why didn't you do that?" And I was thinking, because Jeff, he can't do what you did yet. Like, somebody needs to teach him that, right? Because Jeff would have known what he was going to do before that pass came in, and known if the defense was coming from, I was just going to turn baseline, and they couldn't stop it. But Foose doesn't have that skill set yet.
Jeff, let's talk about Houston tomorrow night. They come in number 4 in the country, number 1 in the net, one of the better defensive teams across the board in the nation. You mentioned the home floor is always an advantage for BYU in these big games. What are the keys tomorrow for Mark Pope to get a win against these Houston Cougars?
I was at the San Diego State game, and San Diego State plays a similar kind of defense like Houston. I think Houston has more talented players, though. You know, I'm not going to say San Diego State's Houston, but they played kind of the same. And the biggest thing BYU had to do was they had to handle that pressure. And I thought they did a really good job. So, number one, they got to handle the pressure. They got to handle the press and limit their turnovers. You can't turn it over. You can't give them easy baskets for dunks. You can't get them going that way. And then, just like what we've talked about, they have got to, at the end of games, when they're wore out, they have to figure out how they can execute and score, and also execute on defense and get stops, get consecutive stops. If things start to go bad at the end of the game, they got to figure out a way to stop the bleeding immediately. It's kind of like a cascading thing. It's like watching the game the other day against Texas Tech. They had the one guy, Isaacs. He got hot, and then they couldn't score on the other end. It was just a cascading thing, and they just got to limit that.
You know, it's interesting, and I had this stat last year. I haven't looked it up this year, but it's interesting the difference in the length of runs when BYU's outside of the Merit Center versus when they're inside for both teams. So when BYU has a run, you know, like the average run was like 8-0 at home, but on the road, it was like 5.5 or something like that. And I would think it's even more exaggerated this year. And it's the same for other teams. Like, for instance, Texas Tech, you know, they go on a 12-0 run to start a half. If that's in the Marriott Center, it's probably an 8-0 run or a 7-0 run. Because you call a timeout, the fans get into it, they get you some energy. And so that's one of the reasons teams in this league win more at home and lose more on the road, is because the runs in both directions are just a little bit shorter or longer, depending on if you're home or away. And I don't know if that's enough for them to get Houston, but they're certainly going to have to take care of the ball better.
Well, before we do five
Yes.
questions with Jeff, Mark, do you have any other questions for President Chapman?
And I just love Jeff Chapman. I mean, he really is an absolute hero of mine. I was at Provo High across the street and watched him play, and he's just always been so kind and good to me, and is such a great player and a great human and an amazing success in life. And I've just enjoyed being his friend. He went from my hero to being my friend, and I've listened to him talk. If you ever get a chance, listen to Jeff Chapman give a talk. It's one of the most faith-affirming things you'll ever hear, and he's just magnificent. So I don't have a question for him other than say, love him. Thank you, my brother.
I love you too, and your family. Your awesome family.
Thank you.
It's like now we have our show's become a love fest. I'm not sure which way we're supposed to turn on this one. Let's do five questions with Jeff Chapman.
5 questions, Jeff. You just answer these right off the top of your head. So, your favorite sports movie?
Easy. Remember the Titans.
There you go.
Okay, good one.
Yeah, we just, you know what? We just had Ben Bywater, BYU's linebacker, on here. And we always expect those football guys to remember the Titans. And he did
Forever Strong.
Forever Strong, that rugby, Highland High School rugby movie. That's the first time anybody's, and I forgot about that. I need to go see that one again or watch it on Netflix. So Remember the Titans, always a favorite. Your favorite singer or band?
The Temptations.
Nice.
You want to sing a song for us?
That's old school.
That's right.
That is
Jeff
old
has
school.
sunshine on a cloudy day. That's all I have to say.
Yes. Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Yes, he was. Favorite breakfast cereal?
Easy. Captain Crunch.
Classic. Expect nothing less from a classic guy, Captain Crunch.
So how come I have Captain Crunch up in the cupboard, but you never eat breakfast when you're at our house? What's up with that?
No, I'm doing that fasting thing. I intermittent fast.
I know. He's doing this intermittent fasting thing.
Me and Collinsworth, man, we don't eat till like 3 or 4 in the evening.
I know. I said to Jeff, like, what? He's like, don't plan on me for any meal. Like, he's the easiest guest to have, by the way, when he comes, because he just never eats. But you're looking really good, by the way. You're doing great.
Thank you.
So he's doing great.
Lot of work.
So your favorite basket that you ever made at BYU?
I have to say there was one in Poly Pavilion. It was the second half, and they were pressing us. We were ahead, and I caught it on the wing, and I took 2 dribbles to the free throw line and shot it up over Greg Foster. I don't know if you guys remember.
Yeah, a great play for the Jazz. Yeah.
And I remember after that shot, I thought it was pretty cool. And there was like a break or something, timeout, and Coach Reed, love him to death. In fact, I named my son Jordan after Coach Reed.
Right.
Yeah.
That Jordan's middle name is Reed. We're that close, but he didn't give a lot of compliments, right, Mark?
Very few.
Very few.
Yeah, he expected us to be great,
Yeah.
and that made me even better. But anyway, he pulled me to the side and he told me, he said, that was one of the biggest time plays I've ever seen. You're a big time player, Chap. And I was like, done. Coach Reed gave me a compliment.
I love it. So against
awesome.
UCLA and over the top of Greg Foster. That's great, because Greg's a 7-footer, isn't he?
Seven
it's
footer.
Yeah, great player too.
UTEP
Really
had
athletic.
some great big men in the late 80s.
Yeah.
All right, number 5. Here's the last one.
Your favorite piece of advice that anyone's ever given you?
Oh my goodness. Advice. Oh, so many life lessons.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and it's hard to make you, like, just on the spot pick out one.
We like to come at you like that. We like to come
with
at
a tough
you.
one. Your favorite bit of advice ever given?
Okay. Here's my favorite. Changed everything for me.
Okay.
You should get baptized in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
And who
That's
gave you that advice? The first one.
Who didn't give it to me? I got to BYU, man. I was giving that advice every day. I'm like, oh, please stop telling me that.
Who was
baptized just to shut people
I didn't
up.
believe it. And then finally I got baptized, and I was like, oh my gosh, all those people who were trying to get me baptized were right. And that has changed everything for me. Absolutely everything.
Now, Jeff, I was at a baptism the other day of a little kid, and the fonts aren't the biggest. So how did they get you under the water?
You're very good. In fact, I almost drowned. The guy who I don't. First of all, I don't know how to swim.
Yeah.
Okay. Second of all, the guy who baptized me name was Wascar Cruz. Blaine, do you ever meet Cruz?
Yeah, I met Cruz.
What about you, Mark?
No.
You know, remember he's about 5'8".
Oh wait,
yeah, he's not big.
He would play pickup ball, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he put me under the water. He couldn't get me up.
Yeah.
and we had to do it twice.
Yeah, because Jeff's arm was hanging out. And here's the thing, like
maybe he just needed
that
it
whole
twice,
thing.
Jeff.
You're more buoyant in water, is overcome by the logistics of that length of a human being under the water and that small of a guy trying to pull him back out. It just didn't work.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Yeah, it didn't work at all.
A funny story. A friend of mine got baptized. He was 80, and his grandson baptized him, and it was an awesome experience. But as they went down in the water, the grandson didn't give his grandpa or great grandpa enough room, and so he smacked his head against the railing and split it open. And but then he got down and got back up, and Bill was so good about it. He said, "You know, I probably deserved that. I should have been baptized a long time ago."
And I forgot that Jeff.
What an awesome story!
I forgot that Jeff didn't swim. We went up to the boulders, to Boulder Mountain, to fish one time. Remember, Jeff, that trip?
Yeah.
And and it's pretty remote. And I remember Jeff saying, "There's no like showers or anything up here." I'm like, "No, we go in the lake. Like we'll take a bar of soap into the lake." He's like, "No, bro, I don't swim. Like I'm not getting in the lake." I'm like, "No, we're just gonna stand in there. Like, what if I float out there?" I'm like, "I will swim out. I will swim out and get you." So
no, nothing above my chest.
yeah,
no.
that's right. So, but we did clean ourselves up in the lake and had a great time down on the boulders. So
the great Jeff Chapman on the Wise Guys. Hey, we sure appreciate our friendship, how you represent BYU and all that you do, and what a tremendous career. And we look forward to having you back on the show a lot as we move forward over the years. And let's get a win tomorrow night.
You got it. Thank you. Love you guys, and go Cougs.
thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
See you, brother.
Jeff Chapman, how about that? And he's 6'6". He played so much bigger than 6'6".
Well, because Jeff's got a 7'2" or 7'3" wingspan.
Yeah.
And Jeff also came with a 39.5-inch vertical jump. So when you have a 7'2" or 7'3" wingspan and you jump almost 40 inches, you play like you're over 7 feet tall.
Is he like a Foose without the jump shot?
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment?
He's more explosive than Foose. Foose is stronger. Like Jeff and I were actually comparing. With Jeff was sitting next to me, and he's like, he's stronger in his lower body, so he has more of an ability to like post somebody up. And I go, and Foose did a drop step and dunked it right-handed. And I go, oh. And then I said, but he, like on that one, you would like taking the ball back, scratched your shoulder blades with it and thrown it down two hands and hung on the rim and then got in the guy's face, right? And he goes, oh yeah, you know I would have done that. And then he goes, he's not quite as explosive as me. So Jeff could get off the floor. I mean, Foose is pretty explosive for how big he is. So even Jeff would say Foose is a little stronger in the lower body, so he can muscle you a little bit more. Jeff was a more skilled shooter, and Jeff is unbelievably explosive. He would elevate and just throw it down two hands on.
Great player on a great team that Gene Bartow thought was the number one team in the country.
I'm so happy that Mark, like, he doesn't have his shoes on either, just like me. So people can't see. I always like.
Yeah, but at least he's got socks on.
I don't
follow the rules here.
I've never worn like people have asked because they can see right now in the shot, they can see my feet. Show them what you got on. Mark's got some cool socks.
Some Toronto Blue Jays.
So we're very relaxed on this show. And see, Dave's got some cool socks on today.
Yeah. If you're on the podcast, you're really missing out.
Nobody wears shoes on this show, just so you know, ever. That's how relaxed we are.
Mark Durant's in his 26th year working as a basketball analyst for BYU Radio with Greg Wrubell. Played for the Cougars between 89 and 95 with a 2-year church mission in between, and he's been with us as we finished up with Jeff Chapman. And now we can get serious. Are you ready to get serious?
Yeah, bring it on.
I mean, your wife's right here,
like
and
Donahue.
she's ready to get serious. So let's get right down to let's talk about some observations through the first 5 Big 12 games. BYU's 2-3. The BYU offense. Give us your observation on what you've learned about them. Good, bad, indifferent, whichever. What comes to mind?
Well, in the first half, they looked like me when I was 20. In the second half, they look like me now. And that's not
okay. On the
good.
podcast, let's try and paint that visual of a young, skinny, vibrant
I'm still
Mark
good
Durant
looking now.
and today's Mark Durant, which is
still really
still
good
in
looking.
tremendous shape.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a minor
I've never heard it put that way, but you know what? I think you nailed it.
So they look like a bunch of young guys in the first half and a bunch of old guys in the second half.
Yeah, a little creaky in the second half, but yeah, I mean,
they're shooting threes like crazy, like we haven't seen before in years.
I think it's super fun to watch.
Yeah.
And, it took me a while to come around to the three. I mean, I'm old school, so just guys jacking up a lot of threes kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But I think BYU does it the right way. They get good looks. They get threes through, moving the ball around well, and it's a smart way to shoot a lot of threes. And so I really like the offense. I mean, you talked about Ali Khalifa. How fun is he to watch? It's just so fun.
Well, plus he's got a smile on his face the whole time he's doing it.
He seems to love it here, love playing. It's almost, it's different, obviously, but it's almost like Jimmer. Jimmer was just fun. It was just like, what's he going to do next? And that's the way Ali Khalifa is. And you've got so many different talented guys, so many good shooters. We talk a lot about conference play in the second halves, and rightly so. I mean, that's what we're talking about. But most of the time, it is a relentless, high-powered, effective, beautiful thing to watching those guys play. And I think that's the frustrating thing, is that there's just been a couple times where that has gone out the window, and you're like, oh, because if you think about it, they could be 5-0 in conference seasons. They've had basically double-digit leads in the second half of every game they played in the conference. And, you just hope this season doesn't become they were really good, what-if type season. But if they can actually, really do something, I think they've got the guys to do it, and it's fun, and it's exciting.
What about on the defensive side? Dave and I called the first, how many games did we call to start the season? Like 12?
11 or so.
Yeah, 11 or 12. And we were taken back by what seemed to be a renewed interest and effort on the defensive side. Now, the games we've been doing pre- and post games for and watching the announcers from ESPN, that's a common thing. People are giving BYU a lot of credit for defense. You're there every game, courtside. Are you buying it? Is this defense that much better? Are they really playing that good defensively?
Well, I think the numbers bear that out, that they're one of the top defensive teams, and they do a pretty good job. Again, obviously you can point to some examples where they haven't been as good, but overall they've been a terrific defensive team. I think Noah has really become a great defender, which I never thought would be the case.
Yeah, last year, who would have thunk it, right?
Yeah, credit to him. He just plays hard, and Spencer Johnson is an elite defender, and I think Dallin Hall's very physical. It would be nice to have more of a rim protector, although Ali Khalifa, he doesn't move well. He's not a great jumper, but I think he's pretty effective. He's a big body. It's hard to move him. He gets some block shots. So I think they're a terrific defensive team. They have some vulnerabilities, I think, that are exploited in some of these conference games where teams just say, it's almost like in football. I'm going to make a football analogy, Blaine.
I love it.
Because you call basketball games, so I feel
You
like
can do it. I'm very comfortable with this. I'm very comfortable
Do whatever
with
you
this.
want.
It's just that, a lot of times the offensive line, you'll have a real size and weight advantage. But early in the game, the other team, they're excited. They get after it, and they're able to stop the run. But if you keep going to it, and eventually you wear them down, and then you start to pick up in the fourth quarter, you're getting big gains. And I think teams are doing that a little bit to BYU basketball. They just keep pounding it, and BYU just gets worn out, or the adjustments the other teams make are effective, and they're able to get to the rim, and it's just hard to maintain that all game long, especially with the injuries like we talked about, but certainly something that needs to be addressed.
Glenn on the live stream from the Philippines said that Jimmer had referenced maybe press out of halftime just to get the juices going defensively, as to somehow to tweak the defense, maybe just get everyone alive coming out of the locker room, some kind of a change up there. This staff, and we talked about offense, defense. Now let's talk about the coaching staff. I think to their credit, they went through this entire change of how they've done things the last 2 years to how they're doing things with this roster this year, and then they've stuck with it. The freedom of the three, the transition back and forth, the defense has been changed and much better.
Wedge rebounding.
This is not a fifth-place team in the WCC this year, and to credit to the coaching staff, because it's mostly the same guys.
Yeah, I do credit them. I think doing the same thing over and over it didn't work particularly well in the West Coast Conference, certainly wouldn't work in the Big 12. So it's really a radical approach that they've taken to the game, shooting 35 threes a game. And and the defense and rebounding. With respect to maybe some things they could try defensively in the second half, I agree with Jimmer. What does he know, right? Jimmer
he knows how to shoot it, I can tell you that.
Him and Chapman, they're always saying stuff.
The day that Jimmer plays defense, we'll listen to you on what you should do defensively. No, he knows how people defended him, so he's probably an expert. But I'm a big proponent of just mixing it up, whatever you do. So teams, if they go into halftime, let's make this adjustment to the BYU's man. But then you come out in zone, or you come out in a press, or you have a half-court trap, or whatever. And, after made free throws, we're going to press. And after that, we're going to just mix it up so teams can't adjust and be particularly effective at it. BYU tried that against Texas Tech. They went to a zone, and they hit 2 threes right off the bat, which is always hard for coaches to, have patience with that, and rightly so. But you need to mix it up. And then it gets, but press. If you're going to lose the lead anyway, might as well lose it pressing and trying to make some things happen rather than just sit back and on your heels. Be the aggressor, get after it. Yeah. Maybe you get beat, but at least you're not just sitting back.
Yeah. Now this Houston game tomorrow night, Dave's laid out some numbers. Review them for everyone out there. They're 16-2. They're 3-2 in conference. They've lost their 2 road games in conference. So that's of note, right? They're number 4 in the AP. They're number 1 in the net, which is the primary evaluation tool for the NCAA seedings. Ken Palm has them a number 1 seed as of right now. Joe Lunardi has them as a 1 seed right now in the NCAA tournament. So that's what they're up against. So what do you do to kind of offset some of the advantages that you
Come on, Coach Durant.
We know, Coach, that they're a phenomenal defensive team. They're not a lights-out offensive team, but they're phenomenal defensively. So what do you do?
Well, it would be nice to have T.J. Haas back. He was a game winner against Houston.
Okay, there's an option.
I got to hug
There's
him
an
when he
option we
made that
can't
shot.
do. Yeah. So,
no, I think Houston is a lot like Iowa State, which is helpful to have played them. Houston's number 1 defensive team. Iowa State was number 2, and BYU scored 87 points in that game, way above anything that Iowa State had given up. And I don't think Houston's given up more than 68. I expect BYU will get more than 68 at home tomorrow with that offense. And Houston will have their own issues trying to score and being on the road. Like you said, Blaine, they haven't been particularly successful. But it's
including at Iowa State.
Right.
The same week that BYU beat them.
Yeah. And but they're a terrific team. It's cool to have them come in and have top 5 team in the building. Every venue, every game is so cool right now. So I'm just loving it as a broadcaster. But it's certainly going to be a challenge. But you could keep the turnovers down like they did against Iowa State. Make a few threes, maybe get a little bit of a lead, and then Houston has to change what they want to do a little bit and make them play your game rather than playing their game, which is slow, ugly, turnover, block shot.
Yeah, they give up. They only give up 51 points a game, which is crazy to me.
UCF had 42 and made 7 field goals in that game last game.
But I agree. I agree with
Houston
you.
at home, they're
BYU's
tough
better
too.
than offensively. They create some unique challenges. Houston hasn't defended a team like BYU. And why? Like BYU only averages 10 turnovers a game, but in some of these games they've given away in the second half, it has been turnovers. What's been the difference? And you've been sitting right there in these games where they have 7 turnovers or 8 turnovers, and they're so good at taking care of it. And even in some of these games, they take care of it for the first half, and then there's just, it's not just the number, it's the type. They turn them over in the backcourt in their runouts. What's behind that, and how do you coach that out of them so that they don't do that in the second half of a game like this one tomorrow night against Houston?
Well, if I knew that, I would be a coach and making a lot of money coaching. But, as a player, we would go to places like the Pit. And I remember once having a 20-point halftime lead, and the crowd just gets going, and the other team gets so much energy. And it's like holding sand in your hands, and the harder you squeeze to try and keep it in your hands, the more it goes through your fingers. And it's just a unique phenomenon to be a part of. And you're just trying to do everything right. But it's just hard. We actually ended up winning that game barely by a point or 2. But a couple of things you need, obviously, you need to have a mentality of not trying to do everything yourself. I think this team, when their back's against the wall, they're behind or they're losing their lead, guys are trying to step up and be the guy, but they try a little bit too hard. And so when you're trying too hard and you dribble in, trying to get it gets knocked away, and that's a turnover. And
You get in a hurry.
Maybe shoot a shot you shouldn't shoot. If I can just hit this, it'll quiet them. And so there's that natural tendency, I think, of players to want to do that. And also, like we've talked about, I think BYU really needs kind of a calming guy. And I don't know who that is.
It was Spencer Johnson against Iowa State. But it was something different Saturday.
And it was Dallin Hall against SDSU.
Yeah.
I mean,
is it better to have just a guy? Like, so, we remember games, we were just talking about, Jimmer, where they're tight ball games with that team. And they, the coaches are talking to each other before they go in the huddle, and they're like, everybody knows we're going to give it to Jimmer. And they're like, it doesn't matter, just give it to Jimmer. and the whole team's thinking, yeah, we know everybody knows we're just going to give it to Jimmer, but we just want to give it to Jimmer. And Jimmer's like, you know what? Everybody knows I'm going to get it, but I just give it to me because I don't care.
It's like Jimmy Chitwood. I'll make it.
It's nice to have that, but you don't always have that, right? And so they just have to stay with what they're doing and not worry about, I need to be the guy right here. It's like, who has the open shot has to be the guy right here, right? Because that's how they got the lead in the first half, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's different types of teams, and a lot of times you'll see successful teams that do have, like Pop Isaacs for Texas Tech. He kind of took over that game, or Jimmer, or whoever. I mean, I always go back to Travis Hansen for some reason. He was a guy late that I just had complete confidence that he would just win the game and take care of it. So some teams have superstars. Other teams, like this team, has a lot of different good players. And I'm not saying you have to have one or the other, but it makes it harder, I think, at the end of the game when you have a lot of good players as to who is going to step up and make the plays for you. It doesn't have to be one guy necessarily, but I think there's comfort in knowing on a team, if we're in a tight situation, we're going to run this play and this guy's going to get it and he's going to score for us. And I think there's a little bit of doubt as to who that would be for this team. And like I said, guys are trying, and it's a hard thing to do. I certainly wasn't that player. I wanted to give it to someone else. I don't give it to me late.
But you knew who the guy was on the team.
Yeah, I did know. And whether it was Marty Haas, like we've been talking about, or Andy Toulson, or Russ Larson, or whoever, we knew who we were going to. And so BYU has great players, but I think the more structure, and if you can, BYU likes to play kind of a free motion offense, but if you can run certain plays where guys know where they're supposed to go, this is what's supposed to happen, this is the guy that's going to shoot it in a completely chaotic situation like at Texas Tech, it gives you some structure and gives you some peace, even if you don't have a particular guy that can bring that to you.
Mark Durant with us. A couple more questions. And then we'll let you go, and we appreciate you being here on the Wise Guys tonight. The good news is Texas is coming on Saturday, and they're only 59 in the net, 13-5. They beat
they're only
Baylor.
13-5.
Beat Baylor the other day. Not ranked. They're not in the NCAA tournament, according to Joe Lunardi, as we sit tonight. And they're 46 in Ken Palm. It's an opportunity at home for BYU. It's a noon start, which is the earliest at the Marriott Center since 2005, when Air Force was here. We probably called it. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, we did.
And so there's that uniqueness to it. But you've got Houston and Texas. Don't you feel you got to get one? You want to win them both because they're at home, but you've got to get one.
I guess it depends on what you're looking for. I mean, if you want to win the conference, I think you have to get both.
Yeah.
If you want to be 500 or a little above, you could probably drop one to Houston.
If your roadway is how do I get to the tournament, don't you kind of got to get one of the two?
Definitely. I think you're right. You got to get one of the two, and then maybe you pick up another road win somewhere down the line. But road wins are, ask Kansas how easy it is to get road wins.
Ask anybody, right?
Even Houston, ask them.
The fact that BYU got one in Central Florida is huge.
To me, that brought them back to, there's no way they should have lost to Cincinnati at home. Okay, they're okay. That was a disaster in second.
Yeah.
They won on the road, so they're even now. They're okay now,
Yeah,
it's like a tennis match. You lose one, you win one. You lose one, you win
that's right.
one.
Well, I gave up my service, but I just got to break myself. So
even when you think like West Virginia, that's going to be one you're going to get, and then they beat Kansas.
Yeah.
It's like
every team in this league is good at home, right?
Yeah.
Hey, look, we were thinking Central Florida would be one of those.
Yeah.
And then they beat just before BYU, Kansas.
Yeah.
Where we're like, okay, we got to rethink that.
Then they got another one after that.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
So hey, I wanted to ask you about this. I know you watched the women's program a little bit. Lauren Gustin, and you know a lot about rebounding. She has been the most dominating rebounder most of us have ever seen, in this women's game, she's just dominates. She just passed Tina Gunn Robinson as leading rebounder in school history. That record stood for 44 years. What do you think about Lauren Gustin and her game? Because she's not a monster size-wise.
No. There's been a lot of great players, and to have that, I mean, I remember one of my favorite players growing up was Steve Trumbo, who was a great rebounder, and Brett Applegate. And anyway, it's just amazing. I mean, she doesn't do it with, like you said, the height or anything, but to be able to do that, given her size, that's just a ferocity in competitiveness that she sees it and gets it, and that's a special quality to have. It's so hard to get rebounds, and for her to do that in the time that she's done it in is remarkable. Congratulations to her.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Even in the final year of the first year of the Big 12 for a player who's 6'1", to lead the country in rebounding and to get that rebounding record, it didn't slow down. We wondered, hey, the Big 12's coming. Is Lauren going to still be able to be the dominant rebounder on the floor? And she still is. She had 17 points and 15 rebounds, I think it was, on Saturday.
She has these absurd stat lines. She gets 20-plus rebounds like it's fallen out of bed, and it's not easy. And for her to do that so consistently against, like you said, even better competition is remarkable.
We've called a lot of the women's tournaments over the last several years in WCC, and we're doing a tournament game. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. And I looked down, and in my head I'm thinking, has Lauren Gustin gotten every rebound in this entire game? and it was the first half, and she had like 12 boards. Nobody else had a board. The other team had one. And I'm like, she is going to get every rebound in this game. It's like, it was crazy. And she goes on runs like that where she gets 2 offensive boards and then, and a putback, and then cleans the defensive glass on the other end, and then comes down to make a shot, and she gets another defensive board. Then she gets another offensive board, and they get a make. And I'm thinking, she's dominating the glass by just rebounding.
And it's funny that some of the best rebounders all time have been people you'd look at and you just say, no, not that guy, Dennis Rodman or whoever you want to
Charles
talk about.
Barkley.
Charles Barkley. But there's a certain level of genius. You talk about Ali Khalifa's passing, but there's a certain level of genius in great rebounders, just understanding the game, where the ball is going to go, what the probability is a ball is going to go there, and getting yourself there. And I mean, there's a level of, she works super hard, and there's a ferocity, like I said, but she's a genius too. To be able to rebound like that, there's a level of genius.
On a game day tomorrow, like a big game that it is, does your wife then give you a milkshake, maybe a shoulder rub, and then just pretty much the day off as you prepare mentally to call the game? Is that what happens at the Durants? Unlike
Blaine and Jeff, Marilee's the lucky one to have me. She's outkicked her coverage.
I was waiting for this.
So she works hard to keep me happy because I'm a catch.
Marilee, you'll be on the show next time, and we'll be able to verify.
We're going to have to bring you on and have a discussion about this topic.
A lot of things being said the last few minutes.
She's actually so unbelievably remarkable, and she's a huge BYU fan.
Yes, she is. I know that.
She wants me to talk a lot about basketball after the games. I'm like, I just talked for 4 hours. But she and my daughter and kids, we are such big BYU fans, and they're at the games, and so she's a great fan of me, but maybe likes the Cougars even a little bit more than me.
Well, let's make it a win-win for both.
Yeah, everybody needs to win tomorrow night, and that'd be perfect. And hey, and folks, and I've talked about this on this show and others before. If you're not following this guy on, I can still call it Twitter. Can I still call it Twitter?
Yeah, I think you can. It's X and Twitter.
If you don't follow this guy on X or Twitter, you're missing out because he makes me laugh almost every day. What's your Twitter handle or X handle?
At Durant Mark. Yeah, I mean, I'm a lawyer by day, so I don't get this. Is my creative outlet. So if you're looking for smart, intelligent, serious stuff, you got the.
Sometimes I'll see some of your tweets, and it's like, remember those Far Side cartoons where you just had to look at it from a couple different angles to figure out what in the world it even is.
That's what I'm saying.
And then you start to laugh.
If everybody gets my tweets, I've failed.
It's a humor. It's a humor on another level because it's humor that makes you think. That's so much
generous.
Better. It's so much better. So
well, Marilee, thank you for bringing him to the studio tonight.
On X.
We'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks so much for being here.
We'll see you guys tomorrow.
I love you guys.
The Wise Guys is better every time you show up.
Yep.
You tell me where to be, I'll be there. That's all I know.
Thanks
Well,
for
tomorrow night will be at the
Marriott.
Marriott Center, 6 o'clock pregame show on BYU Radio. That's kind of where you get you're like the star of the hour during the pregame
it's
show.
when
Do you
I'm
do the
not-
pregame with Shep?
Mostly Shep, sometimes
Ben, sometimes.
Ben
Ben sometimes.
Bagley, Cleon Wall. But yeah, it's when I get to unshackle myself from the.
They throw it
do
over
all
there, so
the-
just
So
say,
here's my
take as long as
question.
time as you want, say what you
They pay
want.
Greg like big dollars.
Oh, yeah.
But he doesn't even have to do that stuff. He just shows up for the game, and you
He's a
carry
diva.
the pregame. You pretty much carry the game, and then you carry the postgame. Now he does do the postgame with you.
I'm the unknown opening act, and he's the I don't know, Taylor Swift. I
Look,
guess.
just keep selling real estate, and
Yep.
it'll all work out.
Selling real estate.
I don't know what I do. Neither does Dave.
Wait, you're not a real estate attorney.
He's
are
an
you?
attorney over real estate.
Real estate.
You're a
attorney.
real estate
Yeah,
attorney.
see, I
but
know
you
a little
don't
bit
sell
about
it.
that.
No,
You don't
No,
sell
I
it. You just
facilitate-
make sure that the deals are
But
legal.
he can be the cog between a sell and non-sell.
That's true.
I manage, Dave's large transactions with all his money.
Thank
Does he
you.
have
And
a
by
bunch
the
of-
way, we need a better year this year.
Does
so
he
good
have a
luck.
bunch of real estate
Good luck
holdings
with
that I don't know about?
Yes.
I figured something was up like that with
most
the cars
of
this guy was
most
driving.
of it's in Montana.
Like some of the cars I see him roll up in, and I'm like, man, I have a Ford Explorer. And like, what's he doing in this?
Don't plead poverty.
that
to
goes
me. I
back to
know- I
Vegas.
know
Let's
what you
let's
got.
leave Vegas out of that. Hey, thanks for coming.
thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. See you
Thanks,
tomorrow.
man.
Mark Durant.
Great to see you. Thanks for
Radio
bringing him in
analyst
early.
for BYU, 26 years in the making. Big game tomorrow, BYU in Houston. You can hear him at 6 o'clock Mountain Time on BYU Radio. It's on XM, satellite radio, and all over the place. And Blaine, you and I will be doing the pregame show on BYU TV. And between all of us, thanks, Marilee. See ya. We'll have it covered. The Red Cougars and the Blue Cougars tomorrow night at the Marriott Center. Next week, Tyler Haws will be with us. Gordon Eakin, the softball coach. Jerem Jordan's going to pop in. He's got a great BYU TV story. Diljit Taylor will be here on February 5th, along with quarterback Gary Bohannon and former head coach Steve Cleveland.
We love when Coach Cleve joins the show. I'm going to put my armrest down here.
Jay Hill will be with us February 12th with
Yeah.
Kristen Kozlowski.
It's going to be great to have Jay and Kristen. So we great guests lined up. Dave's got a bunch of these lined up for us and done a great job of having them. How about tonight though with to have the three that we had on tonight? What a great treat. So
Yeah, look at this. Mark's over here ready to slam the water down and cause some kind of, it's not quite the same effect because we saw it coming. Thanks, Mark.
there you go.
Hey, let's do the Cougar Board question of the week.
Yeah, let's do that.
If you're not familiar with Cougar Board, it's the largest online community of BYU fans with thousands of posts daily. Here's a question from one of their insider subscribers. In every Big 12 game, we've led at the half. Why do we struggle in the second half? How much is the other team adjusting to us? How much is us not being able to keep the pace up in the second half? We've talked a lot about that with Mark Durant and Jeff Chapman. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think there's been a common theme with this, and that is it's a little bit of all of that, right? And I'll add one other thing to that because it's not always the exact same thing in the second half. Mark mentioned that the injuries have led to less depth. And remember, this was a team that's playing 10 or 11 folks, and they play at tremendous pace, and they push the ball, and they rebound hard, and they defend. And having 10 or 11 guys has helped. And they've not been healthy the last 6 weeks, so they haven't been healthy at all in league play. And you do see a little bit of fatigue. And these teams in this league are big and physical. They don't all play with BYU style. You see this, a lot like Iowa State. Houston's a very physical team. And BYU needs to have 10 or 11 guys. And we're hopeful that they're a little more healthy tomorrow night than they have been the last couple weeks.
Should have Waterman back, I think.
Remember, they missed Waterman in the last game, and Foose was limited.
I still don't know why Atiki didn't play, but
they
hopefully
missed Foose
he's
for a
back.
bunch. Tiki didn't play. Before that, Trevin Nell was out. And so we've watched this team play shorthanded. I think they need all 10 because of the fatigue factor. I feel with the 10 or 11 that they can play, then they can hold up. I think the second thing that happens is they go into these games with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they play kind of out of their minds, but they play loose to start the game. Then they find themselves up by 17. And they get in the second half, and they start to think, wait a minute, we were supposed to be an underdog in this game, and we were playing so loose and free. Now we got this lead. We can't lose this thing. And I think there's a little bit of mental, especially on the road, where you get a little bit tight. I loved Mark's analogy where you see the team start to close on you, and it's like sand in your hands. What a great analogy that Mark Durant made. And the harder you squeeze, the more it squeezes through the cracks in your hands. You still need to just hold it loosely. with your hand open and your fingers together. You need to play as loose as you did in the first half. But sometimes I think on the road with a crowd, the other team goes on a run, and this team will get a little bit tight, and they'll take some shots they shouldn't, or they'll turn the ball over, and they got to remember what got them there and play loose and not play not to lose. That's never a good formula. So some of that has come into it as well. So let's hope this week for a healthy team that can play 10 or 11 guys and not have the fatigue, and a team that plays loose all game long.
That's the Cougar Board question of the week. Now let's take a minute and get you up to date on things going on campus. Women's basketball, they're 12-8, 2-5 in the Big 12. As mentioned a moment ago, Lauren Gustin, the new all-time rebounding leader, passing Tina Gunn Robinson's mark that stood for 44 years. She wore number 44, lasted for 44 years. And then Gustin comes in. Now she's got 1,493 and building, and she set the record in a 60-46 win against Texas Tech. So it was a grand day all around for Lauren Gustin, and congratulated her afterwards. She could have left. She came back to play her final year.
Right.
She's gone through coaching changes. She's gone through roster overhauls. She's gone through health issues. She's rebounded through it all.
And she leaves an indelible mark on this program that will likely last a lot of years based on how long it took.
Hard to imagine someone else coming along.
I can't imagine anybody just coming out and just, as Mark said, seems like they get 20 rebounds rolling out of bed. It really is remarkable.
And she did it in 106 games.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Phenomenal.
Crazy. Congratulations to Lauren.
Oh, and by the way, they're going to celebrate this Saturday at number 4 Kansas State.
Right.
That's at 3 Mountain ESPN Plus BYU Radio.
This team at 12-8 is a little bit of a surprise, I think. Everybody thought they're so young on the guard line. These guards are talented. 12-8, I think, they're in a good spot right now.
Yeah, they had a great preseason. Big 12, they've run up against some size and Iowa State or Oklahoma State. They're just so dominating that they're going to have some trouble against Kansas State. Let's be honest.
And they're going to have to recruit some bigs in the offseason.
Yeah.
But this guard line is going to get nothing but better. So
they're going to try to beat number 4 Kansas State Saturday. BYU's men's team going to try to beat number 4 Houston tomorrow.
Only in this league do your men play 3 straight ranked games in a row. So how about men's volleyball? We had Sean Olmstead on last week with us, and it was so fun to have him here in studio.
Great interview.
They're 5-1. If you haven't seen that interview, go to ysguys.com and listen to it or download the podcast.
So they're up to number 8. They went from 9 to number 8 in the poll.
9 to 8. They swept number 15 UCSB 3-1 and 3-0 this past weekend. And that's why they moved up a spot to number 8 in the poll. So congratulations to Sean and his crew. They have Princeton tonight and tomorrow night.
By the way, Michael Zimmerman on our stream says BYU won the first set.
There you go.
So they're up 1-0.
So 1-0. Jerem Jordan, Steve Vale, always covering these games, these home games on BYU TV. So UC Irvine at BYU on Friday and Saturday. All these games are like doubleheader nights. So they play Friday, Saturday night. Which really maximizes the travel. That's at 7 p.m. That one's also on BYU TV.
If you can't get in, watch it on BYU TV.
Yeah,
it's tough to get in.
Great coverage.
This is a hot ticket.
If you can get in, it is so fun. That environment is amazing.
And you can see our Sean Olmstead interview at ysguys.com.
If you get in Friday, make sure you say hello to me. I'm going to go Friday. I'll be
going Friday night?
I'll be sitting right on that front row, right behind where
you sit with
serve.
Bruce?
Yeah, I'm going to sit with Bruce.
Nice. Softball news. Cougars are picked 7th in the 10-team Big 12 preseason poll. Two-time defending national champ Oklahoma's pick number 1.
Yeah.
Hunter Abbas made the preseason All Big 12 team. They've got a lot of talent on that team. She's the only one that got there. I think there'll be a few more at the end of the season. The season begins February 6th against Missouri, Kansas City in Hawaii.
Yeah, in Manoa. I'd love to go do that.
Gordon Eakin, the head coach, is going to be on Wise Guys next week.
Yep. He'll fill us in on what he's got. And you know what? I know what he's going to tell us. They're going to be better than that in the league. He's not afraid to say it. They're going to be much better than that in the league. Now, Oklahoma's going to be tough, but you watch. They're going to be in the top 5 in that league. How about Cougars in the NFL and how they did this? This was a big, long list all season long, but we're down to the
last few.
We're down to the final 4, right? So Zane Anderson of the Packers versus Fred Warner of the Niners. Anderson did not play. Warner had 7 tackles.
Anderson played in the game where they blew out the Cowboys,
right,
so
had
a lot of the bench guys got in. That one was too tight.
Warner also had a tackle for loss in that 24-21 win.
Yeah, the 49ers were lucky to get out of that one.
Yeah. This is going to be an interesting matchup now because the Lions, how can the Lions be good?
I don't know, but
they are. And they're really good on D.
They got receivers, running backs, defense.
And I keep saying every week, look, quarterback that everybody said was a giant bust, and he goes to a different team and has some players around him, and now Jared Goff is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Zach Wilson. That's all I have to say.
Just get somewhere else.
Yep.
Kyle Van Noy and the Ravens. He had a solo tackle in their rout of Houston. And then Andy Reid and the Chiefs squeaked one out. What a game that was.
A missed field goal at the end, right?
Yeah, I felt bad for the kicker who was on my fantasy team during part of the year, and I had to let him go because he was a little shaky. And before he made the kick, we were watching as a family. I go, he's been a little shaky this year. I wished he would have made the kick. That was
just to tie it and go to overtime.
I wish he'd have made the kick, and then the Chiefs in the last minute and a half gone down and won
kicked
it.
One of their own.
Because then it would have been a better finish. Hate to the game's decide on one guy after all that.
You don't want a game to be the result of the failure of one team. You want it to be the success of a team.
So I felt bad for him.
I agree with that.
But I was glad that it worked out for the Chiefs and Andy Reid. I think he's got 24 playoff wins.
Yeah.
And now the big games this week.
So. Yeah, the Ravens and the Chiefs is big. Who are you rooting for in that one?
I'm rooting. Oh man, you know what I'd kind of like to see is Van Noy and Warner against each other in the Super Bowl.
That'd be fun. I can't root against Andy.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I have to go with the Chiefs.
That's going to be a good one. And Lions and 49ers. Home field might be everything in there.
Yeah, I'm going with the Niners just because of Fred. Yeah. So and they were we loved the Niners for years and years with Steve, and there was a lot of BYU players that were going through the Niners back in the day and coaching there and all of that, and a lot of ties. So I still have a soft spot, but just because Kyle's there, I'm going to go with the Niners.
How about if Andy gets the Chiefs back? They won it last year.
Yeah.
And they get them back. It's so hard to get back.
What if they win it again?
Yeah.
He's already a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But does that put him where you go, ooh, is it Belichick or is it Reid for the greatest of all time?
Man. Belichick still got a few more.
In the modern day, I'll say.
Yeah.
Because
and Belichick had Brady, and Reid's got Mahomes. I mean, two of the greatest quarterbacks.
Here's the difference between Belichick and Brady. Belichick made his legacy on Brady. Andy started his legacy by getting to the Super Bowl with Donovan McNabb.
Yeah.
And then he made it and won an AFC championship with Alex Smith. Like, he hasn't had Mahomes his whole time, and he's been successful without him. That, to me, that puts Andy above Belichick.
All right.
And he's also a good friend, so I'm a little biased.
Let's hope that's a classic game. It's in Baltimore. It'll be cold, but it's cold in Kansas City. It was rainy and didn't look great in San Francisco. It's like it's just weather all over the place that time of year, but the Super Bowl will be indoors.
And usually the weather in San Francisco is better in the winter. People always I spent a miserable winter in San Francisco one summer.
Yeah.
That's kind of the saying about San Francisco because the winter's usually clearer. So,
all right, on this day, January 22nd, as we head down the home stretch, 1951, Fidel Castro is thrown out of a baseball game after hitting a batter.
Wow.
And that's where the story ends. We don't know what happened to the batter, the umpire who threw him out,
Fidel Castro,
anyone else.
Not been known, he wasn't known as a guy that's real forgiving. So we'll see what happens.
That's just the one-liner we got.
Yep. So how about 1968? The NBA awards expansion teams to Milwaukee and Phoenix.
How about that?
Yeah.
1983, the Houston Rockets become the first NBA team to be held scoreless in an overtime period.
Wow.
Portland outscored them 17-0 and beat them 113-96. They didn't score a single point in overtime.
That's crazy. 1984. The Los Angeles Raiders defeat Washington 38-9 in Super Bowl 18. How about this question? Which former BYU quarterback was the holder on special teams for the Raiders?
Think about it. Weren't that many in the league at the time?
And
but we already know the answer.
The answer is Mark Wilson. And by the way, you can listen to him talk about that and how he made his way back from injury to hold in that game. He told us that story on Wise Guys. So go to wiseguys.com, listen to Mark Wilson's story.
It's an awesome story.
Yeah. And Mark's interview, my favorite part, maybe one of my favorite parts of our whole time doing the show was toward the end of that interview when Mark Wilson goes, "Hey, can I tell you guys something I haven't told anybody for like 40 years?
We like that.
And we go, yeah. And then he told us the story of how he quit, went into Lavelle Edwards' office to quit because of what had happened with the coaching staff. Lavelle told him, don't quit. There's no reason to quit right now. Just hang in here. Give me some time. Brought Doug Scoville back. Mark comes back to be a first-team All-American and a first-round draft pick after he had decided he was going to quit. Lavelle talked him out of it.
And Super Bowl champ.
And he hadn't told anybody that story. And he told it, and I loved that moment.
So if you haven't heard that, you need to go back
find the Mark Wilson interview and listen to that Mark Wilson interview.
On this day in 1989, Bill Walsh retires after winning a third Super Bowl. That brought in George Seifert.
Right.
And Steve Young.
Yeah. And then in 2006, I will never forget this day, Kobe Bryant scores 81 points against the Raptors in the Lakers' 122-104 victory. It's the second highest scoring game in NBA history behind Wilt Chamberlain's 100 in 1962. 81 of their 122. He was unstoppable that night.
Yeah.
And Kobe Bryant doesn't get enough credit, I don't think, for how good he was.
Fantastic. And I think his last game, what did he get, 60-something against the Jazz? I think his last game.
Yeah, he was not a youngin' at that point.
No, but he was fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic.
Birthdays on January 22nd, 1440, Ivan the Great, the Grand Prince of Moscow and Russia.
Ivan the Great. How about in 1934, Bill Bixby? That's the original Incredible Hulk.
It would always freak me out, when he'd get mad and then his eyes would go green.
Yeah,
and then it was on.
That was the original Hulk.
1949, Steve Perry, lead singer of Journey.
Don't Stop Believing. 1965, DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah, I put that in there for you.
Well, DJ Jazzy Jeff would hang around with Will Smith. DJ Jazzy Jeff, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, they did some stuff together.
You bet they did.
DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Deaths on this day, and January 22nd, 1973, President Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yeah, how about 2008, at a way too early age, Heath Ledger, the actor.
2001 on this day, Hank Aaron.
What's your favorite Heath Ledger movie?
I don't know.
I like what's the one where he's a knight and he jousts and all that stuff?
I have no idea. I'm not a
DJ, you're always good on this one. He's a knight and he's with Jeffrey Chaucer. Is his guy that announces him and
The Last Night?
No,
the last Samurai? I don't know.
I can't remember, but
and he played the Joker, didn't he? Wasn't that his big thing?
Yeah, somebody has to tell us that one where Heath Ledger is a knight and he wins jousting and does all that kind of stuff.
2021, we mentioned Hank Aaron passing away, and he is our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week.
Yeah, Hank Aaron said, "My motto was always to keep swinging. Whether I was in a slump or feeling badly or having trouble off the field, the only thing to do was keep swinging."
How about that?
That's good advice.
When you run into trouble, you just keep fighting. You keep trying, never give up, and he never gave up. By the way, Michael, A Knight's Tale.
A Knight's Tale. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
That's it, Michael. And Michael, am I right? That's a fun movie, A Knight's Tale. So, yep, Heath Ledger.
Hey, here's something of interesting that I think is a great place in this show. The USA top baby names of 2023, according to @BabyNames. Baby Name Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay. The boys, the number one boy name in 2023 was Noah. Mm-hmm. Not Blaine or Dave. In fact, we didn't even make the top 30, losing out to names like Maverick, Asher, Mohammed, and Luca.
Yeah. I don't know that Dave's probably been in the top 10 at some point. But
I think it had a nice run.
I don't think that Blaine's ever had a run. It's a little new.
We're not even in the top 30. So, they're running out of people named Dave and Blaine.
The girls' top name for 2023 was Olivia.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Olivias.
A lot of Olivias. I just the question is, when the name's Olivia, do you call her Liv? Do you call her Olive? Do you call her Liv? What do you do? I
don't know. Whatever you do, whatever you say, then you look at her mother real fast. And if you're getting the look of death, that's not the name you go with.
I know a bunch of Olivias, and most of them go by Liv.
When is the last time you've been at a baby blessing when the baby boy is named Dave or Blaine?
No, Dave had a run in the old days.
Yeah, but not lately. We're running out of them.
Yeah, and Blaine's never had a run.
In my life, there's you and my Uncle Blaine. Those are the two Blaines.
Yeah, he's the only other Blaine I know. No, I've known a couple others. So,
all right, so there you go. A special thanks to Ben Bywater. It was a fantastic interview. Jeff Chapman and Mark Durant. We hit the trifecta tonight.
What a great night! Two basketball legends and Ben Bywater, who do not be surprised if Ben Bywater is a leading tackler on this BYU defense
again next year. I hope we can go all 13 games.
Such a good representative of BYU and such a good guy. Let's hope for health for Ben Bywater this fall.
We're running out 3 more guests next week. Tyler Haws, the all-time leading scorer at BYU. Gordon Eakin, the softball coach, and Jerem Jordan. They'll all be with us next week. My book, C is for Cougar, is a great gift for birthday or any other particular reason. It's at DeseretBook.com, Amazon, and Siegel Books. And there it is right there. And you can find it. It wasn't a holiday book. It just came out in the holidays. It's a 12-month-a-year
Any Daves?
book.
Any Daves in there?
Just the one on the cover.
Okay. And there's no Blaines. There's no Blaines.
It was going to be, but then Eldon Forti beat you out.
Yeah,
on the F page.
And that's okay.
I was going to put it on there, but then I thought everyone would go, he only put it on there because he broadcast
because that's his guy. And plus Eldon's a good friend, and when your nickname's the Phantom, you got to make it.
You have to be in the book if it's the Phantom. Tomorrow night, Blaine and I will see you at 6 o'clock Mountain Time on BYU TV and ESPN Plus. We'll count you down to tip off between number 21 BYU and number 4 Houston. How do you feel about that game?
I actually feel good about it because I feel like the Iowa State game prepared BYU for this game. Iowa State, it was a nails defensive basketball team. BYU really got them on their heels early in that game and kept them on their heels. And Iowa State had a hard time adjusting because they had a hard time keeping up with BYU. I feel like if BYU plays loose, they have a chance to do that tomorrow night. I like the matchup. It's fun.
We love when our live streamers say great show and good night.
Thanks, Linda.
Our podcast will be up tomorrow. Look for it. Share it with your friends. We'll see you tomorrow night on BYU TV. And next week?
Yeah, we'll be here.
Next week will be the night before the Big 12 schedule release. Maybe they'll float us a few.
Maybe we'll get a little early announcement.
Get some inside stuff.
So we'll see you tomorrow night and Saturday for the Texas game. So.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.